Happy Wednesday, everybody in the Delaware Valley and beyond. Hope you're having a great one. Nice day out there today, so hope you get out and enjoy it as we begin an action-packed show today. Just want to reiterate what they said at the end of the morning show. Yeah, the passing of Jerry West, NBA icon. The logo, as many of you probably didn't know, but the logo for the NBA, that image is Jerry West. He passed away this morning. So condolences to the NBA family, to the West family and all. I had to deal, not had to, but I dealt with Jerry West a couple of times when I was covering the NBA. What a nice man. So another passing that we needed to mention. But we welcome back today Bill Colarulo. How are you, buddy?
Good to be back, Bob. Thank you.
Fresh off of the honeymoon?
Fresh off of the honeymoon, but not the honeymoon stage. We're still enjoying each other's company, so that's good.
Well, I can say the same thing, and I've been married for 30 years, so... 31 years. Oops. Ray, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah, all's
good to be here. Yes.
Yeah, you look spiffy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to teach you how to tie a shoe today during the show.
The shoes are tied.
Yeah, but they were untied this morning.
I'm sorry.
Is that the look?
Really, really unfortunate.
He just...
I'm just lazy about my shoes.
Is that what it is? You just don't tie them tight? Okay. Because every day, one of Ray's shoes comes untied, and I know I annoy him when I go, Ray, shoes untied.
The only person in the world that it bothers is Bob.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't bother me, but I just have to point it out to you.
It does.
All right, we have a lot to get into today, but we can't do it until we get through the front page.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Well, we got the news at the end of the show yesterday, so we only had a couple minutes to talk about it, so we'll dive deeper into the injury to JT Realmuto. As yesterday we discovered he has to have a meniscectomy. You like that, don't you? Looks like, and I reached out to a trusted trainer who I've dealt with over the years, God, for about 15, 20 years now, and asked about it. 4 to 6 weeks. He was very confident in saying so. There's a chance JT Realmuto could be back, I would say, right after the All-Star break, maybe. So we'll talk more about that. We're also going to hear from Dave Dombrowski to hear what he had to say with it. After that, they go out and get what I call an impressive 4-1 win over the Boston Red Sox last night in Fenway Park. Impressive in that you're coming off a long road trip. Impressive that you got dealt really bad news earlier in the day, and they just went out and did their business, and it was great to watch. Zach Wheeler goes 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, only threw 88 pitches. I think it was exactly what you wanted out of Zach Wheeler last night. Great outing, limited pitching after being off for 7 days, which he doesn't love. He was a little it looked like he was a little amped up, too much maybe strength in the arm in the first couple of innings, but after that really settled down great. 2 home runs from Kyle Schwarber. He came back to America and said, oh, yeah, let me look at the calendar again. Oh, that's right, it's June. So he bangs 2 out last night. Clean inning by Strom and a save for Alvarado as the bullpen got done. I know you were thinking of Sylvia last night, Ray, when Alvarado came in. So, Sylvia, I hope you're okay today. She was she hated the hefty lefty yesterday, but we talked her out of it, and now maybe she's back on board. Boston had a single to lead off the second inning. They didn't get another hit until 1 out in the 9th. So great job by Phillies pitching there. Yes, Alvarado did give up a hit, but he was fine through the rest of the inning. Phils took advantage of some shoddy Boston fielding last night, but guess what? That's what good teams do. Tonight, 7-10, Christopher Sanchez, 3-3, 2.71 ERA. He goes against former Philly Nick Pivetta, who's kind of pitching like the Nick Pivetta we've always seen. He's 3-4 on the year with a 3.40 ERA. Tomorrow, same time, Aaron Nola goes. He's 8-2 with a 2.77 ERA. You know, opposing teams, they got to see these Phillies coming in and go, oh, my God, like, what is going on here? We think of Harper and Schwarber and those guys. This pitching staff is just unbelievable. So Nola goes tomorrow night against Tanner Houck, who's 6-5 with a 1.91 ERA. Last outing for Pivetta against the Braves. 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 9 strikeouts. So he's coming off a really good outing. Your Atlanta Braves, and I'm not speaking to us, but to other people, lost 4-0 to the Orioles last night. That's their 4th loss in a row. Oh, they're now 10 behind the 46-20 Phils. Your Eagles, they're still a month and a half till training camp starts. So unless something pops, we'll check them out a little bit later. Sixers, 2 weeks from today is the NBA draft. So there's some talks going on there of what may happen. We might look at some mock drafts to see who some people have going to the Sixers should they stay with their first pick at number 16. On the national front, Celtics are at the Mavs tonight, 8:30. Boston's up 2-0. Kristaps Porzingis, after dealing with a right leg calf injury, now has a left leg problem, or it might be vice versa. Maybe it was a left leg, now it's the right. But anyway, he's questionable to play tonight with that rare, what has been called a rare left leg injury. Rory McIlroy, if you have hopes on him for the U.S. Open, well, he may have cleared up his personal life a little bit as he announced he's getting back with his wife, Erica Stoll. They filed for divorce, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, but now they are looking to reconcile. The U.S. Open, it does begin tomorrow, McIlroy being one of the favorites. And I thought it odd yesterday. I got an alert on my phone, breaking news from one Adam Schefter, and it wasn't about the Eagles. It wasn't about the Cowboys, the Patriots, or anything like that. No. It was about 16-time Nathan's hot dog eating champion, Joey Chestnut, being axed from the event because of his, his pairing with another food group. But we'll see how that all plays out. I was fascinated that Chestnut came out and said, man, I was training and everything. I'm heartbroken. And I was like, wow, yeah, I guess you do have to train to stuff 74 hot dogs down your throat in 10 minutes. So that's the front page story. We'll dive into a whole lot more today. But, Bill, have to ask you, how was the honeymoon? Was all good? Everything's great?
Everything was great, Bob. It really was. A great wedding, great honeymoon. But I'm a creature of habit, so I'm happy to be back. My wife is as well. We enjoy vacationing, but 7 days may be too long for us. I'm happy to be home. I really am.
We're happy to have you back, and we congratulate Bridget also on the nuptials. You do not know this, but we, at the show, while you were away the Friday before your wedding, got invited to your wedding.
Oh, really?
We were this close to playing a little prank on you. Yeah.
Interesting.
I may know some people over at the place where you got married that texted me and said, hey, I see Bill's getting married here tomorrow. I don't see you on the invite list. However, I have 4 chairs set up for you at the club member only that overlooks where you were getting married.
That would have been
and
great.
I was invited to come over and watch your nuptials.
That would have been great.
We decided we wouldn't crash on you and let you have your fun. So glad to have you back. Glad to have the Phillies back also. I wanted to start this with a question, Bill, and I know how hard it is coming back from stuff and diving back in to everything. So I'll lay it out for you a little bit. And, Ray, I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about this. It was something I may have teased yesterday but didn't get to. On the national coverage this weekend, now the Phillies are in England. One game was on Fox and the other was on ESPN. I don't remember which one it was. Yes, I do. It was the second day, so it was ESPN. So Jose Alvarado's warming up in the bullpen. And it's the bottom of the 8th inning, and Phillies were home, so it must have been the top of the 9th. No, it was the bottom of the 8th. I'm sorry. Anyway, they show Alvarado warming up in the bullpen, and the announcer casually says, and there it is. There's the closer for your Phillies warming up. Alvarado will be coming in. Are you guys cool? And do you think it's true in Rob Thompson's head or whatever? Is Jose Alvarado definitely the closer for this Phillies team right now? Because when they said it, my ears perked, and I said, for now. Like, in my mind, for now, for this situation, yeah, Alvarado was the closer. I don't know if Hoffman's not going to be a closer at some point again this season. If they're going into a 9th inning and Rob Thompson sees it down the line that it's 3 right-handed hitters, I don't know that he's not going to go to Hoffman. I don't know that he might not go to Kerkering. I ask you guys, in your mind, is Jose Alvarado like the Kimbrel from last year? He's the ride-or-die closer for your Phillies right now.
I don't know, because you make a good point with Topper. I mean, he may decide there's a better matchup and go with it. So, I mean, so far what we've seen this year, though, is it looks like it's Alvarado. He's had the most save opportunities. He's had 14 opportunities. Hoffman's had 8. I don't know. With Topper, I could see him saying, I like this matchup better and not committing to just going with Alvarado. But so far this season, it does look like he's leaning towards Alvarado being the true closer. You just don't know because of how he likes to match up pitchers.
Yeah, that's where I went to. I don't know. Now, Kimbrel, last year, that's the only role he's ever had in his career. And he's had a long career. With this bullpen, he's got different guys going, and we've seen him, as you said, 14-8. That doesn't define closer to me. 14 Alvarado save opportunities to 8 for Hoffman. Lately, it's been Alvarado. Ray, you usually have a really good feel on these things. Do you think it's going to be by committee mostly the rest of the season? Because my thought was, come playoff time, it's definitely going to be by committee.
And it should be by committee the rest of the year. I mean, it's been by committee, and it'll continue to be by committee. I think this is just all matchup-based. And not to throw shade at a national broadcast, but sometimes you don't quite have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. I know that there was some complaints about the broadcast on Sunday nationally, so I think that they don't quite have a grasp necessarily. And you see a guy warming up and a save opportunity, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the closer. He's got the most saves on the team. He's definitely the guy that closes down the game. No, I think that's just situationally in that time, Alvarado's coming in. And I think had the situation been different, maybe you get Jeff Hoffman. But in that case, it was Jose Alvarado, and I think you're going to see probably in the next week where Hoffman ends up getting himself a save.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if Orion Kerkering gets something there, too, maybe once in a while. Strom brought in last night. What's he at, 25-plus innings now that he hasn't allowed a run? He just looks phenomenal. It's fun to watch. So I wanted to start with that really quickly.
Well, let me ask you both then. If we don't think that Alvarado is the true closer and it's going to be matchup-based going down the stretch, do you think that could potentially be something they added at the trade deadline, a true closer for this team like they had last season?
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that. A lot of times bullpen arm does come up when talked about things that may be needed by this team by the trade deadline. I say no because I think, wow, that's a good question. Is there going to be one available? Ray, you have a better handle on this than I do as you keep an eye on all these things because you are in fantasy baseball. So
I don't know how many, like, when you're talking, like, true closers, like somebody with closer stuff, maybe, where you feel like, I know it's a name that everyone has gotten fired up with, Mason Miller, like, out in Oakland. He's got great stuff, and, I would love to have him on the Phillies. What it's going to take to get him, the amount of control he's got. He's a young player out there in Oakland. Would they actually part with him? I don't know. It doesn't seem like they would. I mean, they're very much known for bad business, so who knows? Maybe they indulge in a little bit more bad business. But with this specific, like, trade deadline, the number of guys that have more saves than Alvarado that would be available are probably small because, one, the teams that have more saves win more games. So you're looking at a lot of guys who are true closers right now that are on teams that probably won't be dealing, especially with how many teams are still going to be in it. I mean, the parity this year is ridiculous. So you look at the top teams in the NL, and then you get beyond the Braves, and the Braves, as bad as they've been for as long as they've been, still have a pretty strong hold on that top wild card spot, and they're 10 games behind the Phillies. There's a lot of teams just middling in mediocrity that probably aren't going to give up one of their best bullpen arms or their closer. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get a quote-unquote closer at the deadline anyways. So I would say probably you're not looking to add. You're looking at a bullpen arm that could morph into the committee and be a part of the committee than any true closer.
It's a great question you brought up, Bill, because I honest to God, that hadn't crossed my mind. I look at it this way. I think I would lean to what Ray was saying about going closer by committee for the rest of the year, Bill, because if the Phillies are in the playoffs, this was what came to my mind when the announcer said it the other day. If the Phillies are in the playoffs, 7th inning, starters out, 4-4 game, whatever, and the other team has a couple of lefties coming up, Rob Thompson has shown that in the playoffs, he's looking to win innings. You know what I mean? More than in the regular season where you're looking to win the game. He does play it like, I got to win this inning. He would probably go to Alvarado, maybe Strom, whatever, if you needed a left-hander. But I think situationally he would use whoever's best for that 6th, 7th, 8th inning. And then closer, by committee. I think that's what he would do in the playoffs. You feel that way with Topper, or do you? I said Topper. I never say Topper.
Yeah.
Rob Thompson?
You're You're not a nickname guy.
No,
for the,
Ray got me on that one. Yeah.
I think
Topper.
it's working with me that's gotten him to say it.
Yeah.
Now, I think it was you, Bob, who had Brad Lidge on your show before the season started, who talked about how he's more of a traditionalist. Obviously, he was a closer, once a true closer. And I thought I agreed with Brad Lidge back then. But now that I'm sitting here and looking at this team and the success that they've had, I hated last year that you knew they were going to bring Kimbrel out every single time, even though he struggled towards the end of that series.
Right.
So I think I'm okay with the closer by committee. I think I like the idea of Topper. Look, I'm calling him Topper now, too.
Ray's got us.
He's Topper.
You guys are welcome.
But I think I'm liking that idea of, hey, you got a lot of good bullpen arms. Let's go with the best matchups. But let me ask you, see, like, I wish we got to have Brad Lidge on the show again.
He's getting his master's in, what is it?
Archaeology.
Archaeology, yes. So he might be a little busy
Because is there a certain mentality you need as a closer? When you come in the 7th inning or the 8th inning, it's different than when you come in that 9th inning. There's a reason why teams throughout history have a traditional closer. It is a different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, Ricky Batalco's talked to me often, and all of us often, about that, about the mentality of it all. And I think Ricky is more on the line, like a Brad Lidge, saying, yeah, guys want to be appointed a certain, knowing when they're coming in, knowing what they are every day. I'm okay with that. I understand that, all of it. I'm not going to say, well, the game's changed. It's not like it used to be. But if the manager's thinking has changed from the way it used to be, and if Rob Thompson is going to look to win innings. Now, look, maybe because Strom's pitching so well, he has changed his mind as the season went on and said, whoa, I got that left-hander out of the pen now. And Strom, the guy that I can thoroughly trust. Yeah, you know what? Alvarado is my closer. Maybe that's what he's come to agree upon with himself, maybe with the guys in the bullpen, I don't know. So to look a step beyond that, are you okay with Alvarado being the closer? Because we had a call yesterday, Bill.
I heard it. I was listening.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where you were in your
She was a
travels.
first-time caller, too.
Yeah, Sylvia.
Yeah, Sylvia, and she was saying he makes her nervous. Look, we tend to do that as sports fans, especially here in Philly, where we focus on the one negative and we ignore the other 30 times that the guy was successful. So I am okay with Alvarado being the closer. I would be fine. I think he's shown us a majority of the time, more than a majority of the time, almost 99% of the time, that he's capable. It's only been, 2 outings where he's looked bad?
2 outings out of 31. His first of the year and the one before last night were the outliers. Other than that, like a 1.5 ERA over 6 innings or something like that. So
Yeah, I'd be fine with him.
yeah, you're okay with him being a closer, Ray, if it went throughout the season, even if he struggles, even if he gets Kimbrel-like, would you be okay with him still being your closer? Or because you have so many great arms in that bullpen, would you not be reluctant to be like, nope, sorry, you're not the closer anymore, somebody else is?
I mean, do you need a closer? Is really the question. Like,
that's
I'm not
part of the question
yeah,
too, right?
I'm not just anointing him the closer. I feel like everyone in that bullpen has a pretty good idea of what their role is without the actual title of a closer being out there. I think they know situationally where they expect to pitch. And I think that, to me, Hoffman and Alvarado can play the game of, all right, where is this lineup going to turn out? Are they going to end up giving me a call here? Are they going to give me a call there? I think you can watch from the bullpen and have a pretty good grasp of, like, all right, that's probably where Rob Thompson's going to need me, regardless of inning. I don't think it's inning. I think it's situation. So I don't necessarily need him to be named a closer or be a closer. I just need the best arm for the best situation.
If they're going to do that, though, I would like to see him get Hoffman some more save opportunities in the regular season, because if we do think there's a mentality to it, I don't want Hoffman to have 8 save opportunities under his belt when he comes out in the NLCS to try to close out a one-run game.
And it's funny because before the season started, during the offseason, I was kind of anointing, hey, give Kirkering a chance to be the closer. And he's been phenomenal, too. They have so many good arms out in that bullpen. It's why it's a reason of discussion that we're having now. But the big story, obviously, is JT Realmuto being out with that knee injury. We're going to get into that. I want to hear some things that Dave Dombrowski had to say yesterday, so we will get into all that. I want to remind you the 10 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. All right, when we get back, we're going to hit on the JT Realmuto stuff. Are you okay with where the Phillies are sitting? Because it's funny, we were having that conversation yesterday. What would you do with this team moving forward? Are you okay with what you have? And then after we had that discussion is when JT Realmuto goes down. So we're going to have to revisit that discussion. We'll do that a whole lot more. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. It's pronounced meniscectomy. That is what JT Realmuto is going through today. The surgery. There's been different timelines kind of put out there. Bill, yesterday I got in touch with someone who's been a source of mine for over 20 years, who is a professional trainer for JT Realmuto. He knows the situation and all that, has not seen the injury on him particularly, but knows the injury very, very well, and said to me confidently yesterday, 4 to 6 weeks. So I thought it was interesting. My phone's dialing somebody as I was trying to look up the text that I had. I thought it was interesting how Dave Dombrowski put things yesterday, and I want your reaction to this, Bill. As at first, he talked about getting it done now. Let's hear what he had to say.
It should be about a month that he'll be out, and I'd rather it get done now, as he would, get it taken care of, and then know that he's coming back, rather than it stir up later in the year and then have to do it at an inopportune time right down the stretch.
So I think it's pretty obvious. It's something that they knew about. It's something that has probably been around for most of the year. They found out at some point. The person I talked to yesterday, it's a partial removal of the meniscus. Partial removal of the meniscus versus repairing the meniscus, which means it's better. Time frame 4 to 6 weeks is what I was told. He also said that if it was a football player, they'd be back the same week. Well, that might be some biasy there. But what do you think off of that? I think it was something that was there that Realmuto said, it's not that bad. I could probably get through. Like my source said, players play through this all the time. It's better to get repaired. So I think it was something that was there. I think it's something maybe that it got a little intolerable, or that they were seeing something and they said, look, if we get it done now, because line it up perfectly, Bill, it goes right to the All-Star break, which buys you another week of recuperation. How do you think it all played out?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this was planned. And it doesn't sound like he's overly concerned, unless Dombrowski's just a great poker player. But it sounds like they're pretty confident it's only going to be a month around there. My only concern, though, is you're talking about a position where it takes a lot on your knees. So
yeah.
That's the only thing that has me concerned. Is I get it. 4 to 6 weeks is the normal recovery time. But for a catcher, that's the only thing that has me nervous is, well, what if there is complications? What if it does become a little bit more difficult for him to get back to catching? But they seem confident. It does seem like it was planned out. So hopefully they know what they're doing. Because listen to this stat, Bob. I got this from MLB.com. You may have seen this. Since 2015, JT Realmuto has caught 9,315 and 2/3 innings.
Wow.
That is 1,547 more than any other catcher during that span. How crazy is that? Over 1,500 more than any other catcher over that span.
Yeah, it is nuts. He's out there all the time. We know how tough he is. Look, what's Ohapi's first name? Logan? Yes. Yeah, Logan Ohapi took one off the man's last night and had to leave the game. We saw JT take a foul ball. I don't know if you were here. Did you? I don't know if you saw it, Bill. He took a foul tip, right to the worst spot of a man's body in a game last week. Went over on his back, and that's not Realmuto. He doesn't lie on his back in pain. I think he realized he was on his back, gets to all fours, and they showed the replay not once but twice, and I think every man in the Delaware Valley was, bent over in pain.
Was that the same game when there was a play at the plate, too?
Yes, where he hit his head.
So I was checking in on my honeymoon, so my wife was nice enough to let me keep checking in on what was going on in Philly sports. Yeah,
so we know how tough he is to go through that, and so your immediate concern is, okay, can he come back from it? It appears to me like they knew this was coming. I think maybe they said, look, are you okay to go to London? And then we do it after that. Lines up perfectly with the All-Star break. That gives you 5 weeks maybe on a 4 to 6 week injury, and maybe you can do that. I think there was an agreement there. I think Realmuto wanted to go to England. They fully knew well that, okay, he's all right. He can do all these things. Maybe it got to the point where he kind of went to them and said, yeah, it's hurting a little bit more now, and this is what they came up with. I think there was a plan.
I think there was a plan, and I also don't think that the July 30th trade deadline shouldn't be considered here, because now they will know, hopefully everything goes as planned. He comes back in about 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll know you have a healthy JT Realmuto for the playoffs. But if not, come July 30th, maybe then you have to get aggressive and go out and get somebody. But for the time being, I think you roll with Stubbs. And look, Garrett Stubbs is not JT Realmuto, but for 4 to 6 weeks, can he do enough with the rest of this lineup that he could hold his own? I think he can.
Well, Dave Dombrowski talked about Garrett Stubbs and how they might handle this situation.
I'm comfortable with it. Stubbs has actually been playing pretty well for us recently. We like Marchand. We actually have liked him for years. One of the difficulties for Marchand has always been he's been hurt a lot, but he got back recently from that back, and he's played fine at AAA. The one thing that, from a defensive perspective, I feel great about the catching. I mean, Marchand is an outstanding defensive catcher, and he can really throw. He handles the pitching staff very well. They like throwing to him. He studies the opposing hitters, just like Stubbsy does. They feel comfortable throwing to Stubbsy. So I think from a defensive perspective, then they'll just have to be in a position where they hopefully they can contribute.
All right, do me a favor, Ray. Play the first statement of that again.
I'm comfortable with it.
All right, stop. Was that a question or an answer? You know how, like,
the high-pitched voice a little bit?
Kids talk like that a lot now. If you notice, like, younger professionals and stuff, a lot of their speaking is that uptone kind of ends in a question. Oh, no, we're fine with it. Like, he didn't sound like it. And then I think in his head he said, oh, wait, I got to back these guys a little bit better than that. And he went on to say what he said. We had the conversation yesterday, which I thought was interesting, talking about how good this Phillies team is. And, there was some talk about Soto over the weekend that he didn't have a good outing, and he hasn't been very good this year. Are you okay rolling with it? I came to the conclusion, well, yeah, you have 4 to 5 really good / great arms out there in the bullpen. You can try to find him a little bit. Stubbs as the backup catcher has always been a question mark, but he's only a backup for, as you said, Bill, a guy that plays all the time. Moving forward, I'm okay. I'm okay for 4 to 5 weeks going with these two, with Stubbs and Marchand. And yesterday I was driving home talking to a friend. He called me. He's like, what would you do? I went out like this. I said, I would platoon the two of them. If they're kind of the same, I think I'd go with Marchand as my starter and put Stubbs back in his place that he's used to, playing maybe twice a week because, and this isn't anything against Stubbs, right now you're going to have two guys in new positions where Stubbs is now a starter and Marchand's now a backup in Major League Baseball. Neither have done that before. If you make Marchand just your starter, well, now you're only changing one role there, and Stubbs is still okay playing 2 times a week. I'll let it play out. I'll let Stubbs get most of the time for about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. But then I would take a look at it like that if they're playing like the same, or if Stubbs is, I don't want to say hurting you, because I don't think defensively either hurts you, but I would take a look at it like that. How about you? Is it just defined as Stubbs is your number one?
I'm giving Stubbs an opportunity, see what he could do. I mean, they are 11-4 in the 15 starts that Stubbs has behind the plate. That's pretty damn good.
Sure.
So, and look, defensively, you saw it last night. Makes the nice throw to second to throw out the runner.
Yep, that was a great throw.
Great throw. I had to replay it because it just seems like every umpire's in the wrong position now, almost every single game. But now I'm rolling with Stubbs. I think that he's earned it. Give him an opportunity. 11-4. If they could do that with him, we won't miss a beat with JT. And it will help, hopefully, that you have Trey Turner coming back. Again, I think part of the plan. They knew Turner was probably coming back, and now you can put Realmuto on the shelf for a little bit.
Just what I was going to bring up next. Ray, how do you feel about the Stubbs Marchand thing? How would you handle it?
If you look at JT as the guy that plays 80% of the games for the Phillies at catcher, I'm not necessarily asking Stubbs to do that. I mean, Stubbs was, for the first time in his career, playing 3 games in a row when JT was out earlier this season. So I don't know if I'm quite putting that workload on him before, and I'm also not going to put the workload on Marchand, who's definitely struggled to stay healthy in the past. So I'm looking at this as maybe a 60-40 split, a 65-35 split. Give Stubbs the bulk of what he's going to get there at the backstop, but a lot more of, interchangeable work between the catchers instead of just making this, oh, yeah, you're the guy. Nobody can be the guy to the level of JT. That's what has been so incredible about JT, the fact that he's out there every single day and is tough enough to be out there every single day. Stubbs doesn't quite have that physique to hold up to that, and Marshawn with his health has not quite proven at any level that he has been able to hold up to that. So if JT's the 80% guy, Stubbs could be the 65% guy.
And it's funny. I talked yesterday, and often I have brought this up about, and Bill, you'll probably agree with this. We look at athletes as robotic an awful lot of times. Like, you throw them out there and they play. They run all over the place. Like, we don't take into consideration, man, Eagles are looking to come back in a game when they're down. These receivers are running routes like 6 times in a row. You know how hard that is to run top speed, a good pattern, and get where you want to go. But no, we just say, oh, you go out and you do it. Well, with what's his name, Stubbs, let's not forget, one time in his career he's caught 3 games in a row. Once. Now we're going to ask him to catch 60% of the time. He's 31 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's wear and tear or anything like that, but I said this before. If you watch Stubbs behind the plate, I would say pretty much every game he takes a shot where you see a reaction to it. Like a foul ball off the hand, off the knee, off the, inner thigh, whatever. He's constantly getting nicked up. And for a smaller guy, that's going to be tough. So where would you split it right now? Would you kind of do the 60-40 type of thing?
Yeah, I don't know, though. Look, and this is something that the manager and the pitching staff are going to have to answer, but how comfortable is this pitching staff with Marshawn as the catcher? I don't know. I know they're comfortable with Stubbs. Obviously, Stubbs has caught them for warm-up sessions. He's worked with the bullpen arms. I don't know how comfortable they are with Marshawn, and that would be my only concern is how often do you want him back there with this pitching staff who's firing on all cylinders right now?
Yeah, so you're going to have to, when they're throwing their sessions, away from what we see. So, I don't know, say like a Ranger Suarez throws a bullpen session today. You're going to have to throw it to Marshawn, I would assume.
Yeah.
Right? You want those guys to get a little bit used to him. But you bring up a great point, something I was going to bring up also. Yeah, with Trey Turner coming back, that's a nice little additive you can say. Why you have to take one guy away? Oh, yeah, let's put in one of the best 3 shortstops in all of baseball who was hitting 340-plus when he went out with that hamstring. Oh, yeah, by the way, we can just plug him back in.
Yeah, now the only thing is, and I'm saying the same thing, but the only thing is it's not as if Turner's replacing a guy who hasn't been performing. He's going to be replacing Edmundo Sosa.
Yeah.
So, you're really not getting that much of a increase than what you got from Sosa while he was out. So, but look, this team's so damn good. I think they can overcome 4 to 6 weeks without JT. You just have to hope there's no complications. That's all.
After Bryce Harper, who's the player you could least afford to lose on this Phillies team? We'll get to that after the break. Who's the player after Bryce Harper, everyone included, you could least afford to lose if you're the Philadelphia Phillies? Bill Colarulo's with us all day long. This is Bob Cooney, middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, middays. As we approach the 11 o'clock hour, Bill Calarulo with us all day long, fresh off of his honeymoon. So we're glad to have him back. Hope you out there are all well rested, ready to go on this beautiful Wednesday. It's actually my Thursday because I have off on Friday, so tomorrow's my last day of the week. But we were talking about the Phillies bullpen a little bit earlier, and we got some texts about it. We'd love to hear what you think. 610-632-0975. We've been talking a lot about it. Is Jose Alvarado your closer? Does it matter? Do you need a closer? Is it going to be closer by committee? But we got some texts on it. Ray, what did the texters have to say today?
Yeah, we had one texter checking in from New Jersey saying, no way they need to get another arm for the bullpen. Do not mess with the, all caps. Do not mess with the chemistry. Mix and match wins.
It's one of the reasons I said I don't think you need to go out and change a lot of things right now. I kind of like what they have going on here.
I agree, don't mess with the chemistry, but does adding a bullpen arm really mess with the chemistry? I could see where if you added a positional player that it could mess with the chemistry, but putting another arm in the bullpen, does that really mess with the culture? I don't think it does.
No, I wouldn't think so either. Culture's great. Look, everybody wants everything to be ideal, and it's just not the case. And, there's been talk on the other shows this week about what Jalen Hurts had to say about Nick Sirianni, or rather what he didn't have to say about Nick Sirianni. And it's, oh, my God, their relationship and all that. Look, this is just me. I don't think it matters all that much. I don't think relationships – it's nice to like each other. Like, it just makes it easier. Like, I like coming to work every day because I like everybody here. Bill coming back to us. Oh, cool. That's cool. I can't wait to hear about, Bill's honeymoon and stuff like that. It does make the day better. But at the end of the day, whether you like somebody or not, and I don't think, that Sirianni and Hurts don't like each other. I just think Sirianni isn't Hurts' cup of tea. But I don't think that's a big deal. When it comes to the Phillies, no. You add another guy to a team that's 46-20, I think it's like, yo, man, what's up? We win here. Welcome aboard. That's it. I think it's that easy.
Yeah, and winning makes you like each other, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it helps.
So it's kind of the chicken and the egg argument. Is it the vibes that result in the winning, or is it the winning that results in the vibes?
Yeah, I agree.
But look, I've said it before. I don't want to mess up this team that much, though. Garrett Stubbs was one of the guys who I didn't want to see them upgrade the backup catcher position. In fact, I talked to Kevin Cooney a couple weeks ago on one of our weekend shows about that very thing. And Kevin said, well, you need to upgrade the backup catcher if JT knee injury is worse than we thought. Well, Kevin was spot on with that one. But I don't want to mess up the vibes, but I don't see how a bullpen arm really does that. I think if you do add too many pieces that change the whole lineup, now you're messing with the vibes a little bit, or the good vibes that they have going on in that clubhouse. But a bullpen, no, that doesn't. If this culture isn't strong enough to survive adding a bullpen arm, then they don't have a great culture.
I totally agree with you. I think they're just so rock solid. I don't think much can be done wrong here. But if you take away Bryce Harper, and the Phillies had to deal with that. Harper was out a long time with an injury last year. They got through it, should have gone to the World Series again last year. You lose now JT Realmuto. And Scott Lauber came on the air yesterday. I want to play a clip that he had to say about JT Realmuto, and then I want to ask a question, my first question of the day that you can respond to.
The word I use is their most indispensable player, in that he's the guy that they can least afford to do without. Like, they proved a couple of years ago they could make do without even Bryce Harper for a little while, right? They got by for about 3 weeks, close to a month at the end of 22 with Zach Wheeler on the shelf. They have proven that they could get by without Trey Turner. I think it's because the drop-off at each of those spots, look, it's steep, but, they have people who can fill in. For a few weeks, Edmundo Sosa can fill in and do a good job. You can get a guy over to play first base for a while, and of course you're going to miss Harper's bat, but you can withstand it for at least a little while. You just said it, like, Stubbs doesn't play much. Those 3 games that I referred to in May where JT was out, that was the first time in Stubbs' major league career he played 3 games in a row.
If you're missing, in Scott's words, your most indispensable player for, let's say, 6 weeks, Bill, what can you expect out of this team? Let's go 35 games. How is this going to affect them over this 35 game? And do you agree? that JT Realmuto is the most indispensable player on this team?
I do. And in fact, one of the days that you were off, it was me, Amy, and Ray, and we talked about who's the most valuable player on this team outside of Bryce Harper. All three of us said JT Realmuto. So I do think that he's indispensable. But at the same time, this team is just so good and so deep, and the pitching staff has been so damn good. I think they can survive 4 to 6 weeks. And by survive, I still think they could probably play close to 600 baseball even without JT. I know that that's probably asking a lot, especially with some of the opponents they have coming up. But they just have shown they're that deep. Now, over a 162-game season, without the best catcher in baseball would catch up to you. But I think they're going to be fine over a 6-week span.
It is amazing. I mean, you're talking about, Bill said it, the best catcher in baseball. Scott Lauber, who's been covering baseball for a long, long time, called him the most indispensable player on the team. And Bill just said they could play 600 baseball for this 35-game stretch. 4 teams in all of Major League Baseball last year played 600 baseball for the season. So that's a great mark. I don't disagree with you either. Where do you stand on this, Ray? Is he the most indispensable? And where do you see it over, say, a 35, 40-game stretch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's the most indispensable also when you look at what's out there. Like, you can't really recreate the production and just the level of catching you get from JT and anything that you'd be able to do right now. Like, even if you were to get aggressive and say, oh, we need another catcher. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they need to go do that. But even if you were, you can't recreate JT Realmuto. You can't recreate what he's given you. There's ways with the lineup that I think you can recreate other guys and you can bring in guys that would help that out. To me, what JT does for this team makes him the most indispensable player. What he is at his position is so unique that puts him up just above everyone else. And I think for me, I look at the 35-game stretch, and yeah, you still can play. You know, maybe not 600, but 550. Like, you're right about there. Like, I think you're right about there to play it that way just because you look at the lineup they have right now, and it's like, okay, Casty's still hitting 210, 215. Schwarber, hey, great to see that he woke up last night. We were joking around last night in the 6 o'clock hour. We're going over like, oh, who in the lineup do you need to step up? And I was like, hey, it'd be cool if, Schwarber remembered he's a home run hitter. And then first pitch of the game, it's like, all right, shut up, Ray. Like, here's a home run for you. And he hits 2 last night. But like, he could step up. Stott went into last night's game only with 5 points higher of a batting average than Johan Rojas. And I think if you told anyone that before the season, they'd be like, wow, Rojas really learned how to hit, right? Like, I think that we're seeing some things with this lineup that they could get even better. And they can really replace his production offensively without the catcher position being the driving force of that. With that said, still, given where he's at and what they have on this roster, he's the most indispensable player.
All right, 40 games, 600 baseballs, 24-16. By Philly standards this year, that doesn't sound 24-16. That doesn't sound like all that great.
They're playing 700 baseball right now.
They are.
By Major League Baseball standards this year, that's incredible.
Yeah, right?
Everyone else is like 500.
Yeah, so this is going to lead me to another question that I'm going to ask to begin the 11 o'clock hour. And it's going to be about all of Philadelphia sports and individual athletes. Let's take a look at who you couldn't lose. So I'm going to ask you, if you go through all the sports, I'm sorry, they lost Bryce Harper at the beginning of the season last year. How many weeks was he out for? 6? Beginning of last season, maybe, Ray?
Yeah, right around, because he came back. He was superhuman coming back in May.
Right. So the Phillies lasted, believe it or not, without Bryce Harper last year for a long period of time. They got through it and were able to still almost go to the World Series. The question out there to you is, what team couldn't last if they were missing this player? We probably have to take Joel Embiid out of it because that's the obvious answer. Everybody else is open to it. Make a case for or against it if you want to. 610-632-0975. We'd love to hear from you, or you can text us if you want. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. You're having a great Wednesday as we are at the 11 o'clock hour. A reminder, Matt Breen will be joining us 1 o'clock, right, Ray?
That's right.
That's right. 1 o'clock, Matt Breen to talk all Philadelphia sports and a lot of stuff going on. But the question I put out there to you now, I'd love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Give me a player in this city that the team could not do without. Now, Joel Embiid will take off the board because, A, we've seen them do without him a lot, and B, it doesn't usually work out. So we already know that. You could make the case of others, and maybe we have a case against it, or maybe there's a star player out there you could say, you know what? I know this might be one of the answers, but I don't think it is. I think it's an interesting conversation. Is anybody indispensable? I think the Phillies are going to be okay without JT Realmuto. Yet it helps that they have a really, really good team all set around that. But I think they're going to be okay. If it's a 40-game stretch, 24-16 doesn't seem impossible to me. Why is that, Bill? Why am I so comfortable?
Because the team's playing 700 baseball. So even if they take a step back with JT Realmuto being out,
it's 600.
It's still 600 baseball. It's wild, man. It really is. But and look, the pitching staff is so good, and we do give a lot of credit to JT as he deserves for managing this staff. But they're so good that I think they're going to be just as good for a short period of time with Stubbs.
Yeah, I do too. I think they're going to be okay. I'm also anxious to see Marchand. As Dombrowski stated, a good defensive catcher. He's battled some injury. We saw him hit a home run during the pandemic, which was cool, out to right field. And he hit it among the chalkboard, or not chalkboard, the cardboard people, I should say. Ray, you were at that game. I know you snuck in, right?
Yep, I was there.
Unbelievable. He's
I
everywhere.
wasn't. For legal purposes, that's a joke.
The man about town, Ray Dunn. So that's the question we have out there right now. 610-632-0975. Is there anyone in this sports town that is indispensable? On the Phillies? Maybe. Maybe not, because they are so good. Eagles, Sixers, we took Joel Embiid off the board. They only have really one player on the team, so that's kind of hard to go. Yeah.
There's nobody else.
Flyers, some other team maybe? Who's indispensable in this town? But something came up yesterday on Twitter, Bill, that I wanted to run by you, and I saved it to my phone so that I could read it to you. Also, I got to give you a Bob Gibson stat that I gave to Andrew this morning. That's just unbelievable. But this is from Matt Miller on Twitter. An interesting contrast in the NFC East between Dallas and Philadelphia in terms of the young core locked up long term. Dallas's blue chip players, Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Zach Martin, none have long-term contracts or are at the end of their prime. Phillies blue chip players, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Landon Dickerson, all are locked up full-time.
You can add Jordan Mailata to that list, too.
You can. You can.
And Jake Elliott.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman did a phenomenal job taking care of their young talent. And you see what's happening in Dallas. They're in trouble. CeeDee Lamb needs a new contract. Dak Prescott needs a new contract. Micah Parsons needs a new contract. So they're going to be in trouble trying to fit all of those players under the cap. And the longer you wait, the more expensive it becomes.
Exactly.
So Howie Roseman, you got to give him credit there, taking care of these young players.
Absolutely. I just read that yesterday, and I thought, this is cool. On the field stuff, okay, they're probably closer when you compare the two. Off the field, not even close. And let's not even mention that they have a coach that's, has 1 year left. Like this year,
he's always,
in his contract.
You're always a lame duck coach in Dallas.
Lame duck. Edith in Chester has an answer to my question. Edith, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Bobby, how are you? How's everybody this morning?
Doing great. Good to hear from you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We cannot use Jake Elliott.
That's a good one, Edith.
As far as I'm concerned, he's indispensable. He's clutch, and we need him on our team.
Wow, if I would have put $100 down this morning, Edith, and said nobody is going to say this position, it may have been place kicker on the Philadelphia Eagles, but you came up with it.
Hey, that's my man. He comes to deliver every time.
I love it.
Bobby, do you know how many times has he not got a field, not did a field goal or kick or whatever he has to do?
All right, would you call him the most reliable athlete in Philadelphia right now?
I sure would.
I think you're right.
I sure would.
And I think you're right.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
All right, Edith, don't forget to get your FanFest tickets in the next couple of weeks, all right?
Okay, I'll call back and get them.
You got it. Edith, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it.
That's a great answer.
That is a really
that
good
is
answer.
A great answer. And I say this a lot. One of the most underrated plays from Super Bowl 52 when the Eagles beat the Patriots was Jake Elliott's 46-yard field goal with a minute left in that game.
Yep.
I know a 46-yard field goal isn't a difficult field goal necessarily. A rookie in the Super Bowl, if he misses that field goal, you're giving the ball back to Tom Brady around midfield with over a minute left, only down 5. That was one of the most clutch kicks we've ever seen, and he put it right down the middle, man.
He did, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, Edith might have just came up with the ultimate answer there, but we have a couple of texts about it. Ray, what say the texters?
Yeah, Ben in Norristown says it's absolutely Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have yet to win a game with him on the sideline.
Okay, let me ask you this question. We knew Jalen Hurts was going to be thrown out there. This Eagles offense is tremendous. If you have a capable backup quarterback, and maybe Pickett is that, how many less games are you winning if I say the Eagles are destined with Jalen Hurts this year to be I don't know, I'll go with what everybody else says. I'll go 11-6. Do you think if Pickett's back there, how much changes in that record?
8-9.
Is that right?
That would have been my answer, Jalen Hurts, because I don't think, as good as this offense is from a talent perspective, just go back 2 years ago, 2022. The offense was stacked. That team was firing on all cylinders. Gardner Minshew comes in. Not that he played poorly.
No, they put up points in Dallas, right?
But they didn't win without Jalen.
Yeah.
So I do think that Jalen Hurts is a really good answer there. And it doesn't matter how good your team is. You can't survive bad quarterback play. And I don't know. I don't have enough faith in Kenny Pickett over a 17-game season. If Jalen Hurts is out for a couple of games, I think Kenny Pickett can go 500. I think he can win some games for you, which is the purpose of a backup. But for an extended period of time, for a playoff run, you're not seeing another Nick Foles situation maybe ever again. That was the outlier.
Ray, do you think that's the most obvious answer is Jalen Hurts?
Yes, it is, because David also texting in Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is his answer. If he misses extended time, we'll see why he was an MVP candidate in 2022 and why he outperformed Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and we'll understand why Pickett was traded for a 6th-round pick.
So it's funny. Everybody goes to we do remember there was a 2023 season also. I don't think we can look at the 2022 season and just say really very easily that's who Jalen Hurts is. I don't know. As I've said to you before, this is the year for me. I got to see it this year. I like Jalen Hurts a lot. And I told the story before. He was my favorite player in college to watch his last year playing. That I came in here and said, man, anytime Jalen Hurts is on TV in college, I got to watch him play. That's how much I admired him. I didn't know if his game was going to translate into the NFL. I didn't like that the Eagles took him with a 2nd-round pick the night that they took him. All of those things coming into play. But I'm still... This year is going to define to me who Jalen Hurts is. Is he that close to MVP type player, or is he the middle of the road type of player that he was last year? That still won you 11 games.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we talk about Jalen Hurts, and yes, he needs to be better than he was last season, I still don't think it was that bad last year. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't as good as it was in 2022. But when you look at the overall picture of the fact, if you believe that Brian Johnson was not a great offensive coordinator, and you believe that the offensive game plan and the play designs and the route concepts weren't up to par, the fact that Jalen Hurts had the season he had is pretty remarkable then, isn't it? I mean, he's got to correct the turnovers. Way too many turnovers.
That can't happen, yeah.
15 interceptions, too much. But you look at Patrick Mahomes, I think he threw 14 last year. I mean, it does happen. So I do think Jalen Hurts needs to be better, but I also don't look at last season and say Jalen Hurts is the reason why they had the epic collapse that they had. I don't blame Jalen Hurts. I don't even think he's probably top 5 for me as to what happened down the stretch with that football team.
So you weren't here when they had the press conference last Thursday.
I watched it, though. I did watch it.
Oh, did you? Okay. And as I said yesterday, and I said it today in the front page stuff, Eagles don't open training camp for a month and a half, so I'm not going to force feed Eagles talk on anybody. That's just me. I think the Phillies are the talk of the town right now. But I'd like to hear your reaction too. Jalen Hurts was asked about Nick Sirianni and kind of like what's he implementing in the offense or how's he handled, Kellen Moore kind of taking things over.
It bothered me.
Did it really?
Yeah. Look, you guys know, and I know Ray was taking shots at me while I was away on my honeymoon about
bastard.
about Nick Sirianni.
I had your back, Bill.
Bob was joining right on in. I heard it.
Absolutely.
But you know that I've been a proponent of Nick Sirianni. I think it was the right move bringing him back.
And I agree with that. I agree. I would not have fired him if I was the GM.
But it did bother me, Jalen Hurts' response, because Jalen Hurts, we have learned over the last couple of years, is always calculated in his answers. And you knew going into that press conference, you knew what they were going to ask you. You knew that the question was going to come up. The media team for the Eagles is very good. They have them prepared for the questions that are going to get asked. And that was basically a softball question. And Jalen Hurts is a smart man, okay? He's a smart man. He could have easily came up with a generic response such as, it just goes to show Nick Sirianni is committed to winning and he'll do anything for this team to put them in the best position. Easy. The fact that he said, that's a good question, I don't think I have an answer to it. That blew my mind. To me, it had me concerned that there is something going on. And this is coming from somebody who I was a proponent of Sirianni coming back. I thought that things got overstated last year or blown out of proportion, that Sirianni lost the locker room. I didn't buy any of that. But the fact that Jalen Hurts couldn't come up with one nice thing to say about his head coach when given a softball question like that, it bothered me.
So what if he didn't want to lie? What if in Jalen Hurts' mind he's like, in Jalen Hurts' mind, he doesn't do anything here. I don't know. I've been dealing with Kellen Moore the whole time. What if he didn't want to lie?
But the question that was asked was, what does it say about Nick Sirianni that he was willing to change his offense or something along those lines? Like, what does it say about him? Like that could have been, that's a really good question. Like, what do you mean it's a really good question? All he had to say was, it just goes to show he's committed to winning, or it goes to show that he doesn't have an ego and is willing to do anything to help this team reach our ultimate goal. I mean, you could have given a generic response that was really nothing. And the fact that his answer was, that's a good question, I don't have an answer for it. I don't know, man. That bothered me, and it made me think maybe there is something more going on than we don't realize.
I'm starting to wonder, and it doesn't bother me all that much. Like, I heard the morning show talking about, like, do you think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid don't have a good relationship, or that Jordan Love doesn't have a good relationship? I don't care. Like, I don't. I've seen players not like their coaches or not agree with, but still succeed. You know what? An awful lot. Like, that to me in sports isn't all that huge.
And we've seen it the opposite. You go back to the Carson Wentz days, the argument was, Wentz is too good of friends with Press Taylor and doesn't like to be coached hard by his friend, something along those lines. So it could cut the other way. The only thing that bothers me is if you go back a couple of years ago, all we heard was how close Sirianni and Hurts were. You remember Sirianni would talk about how Jalen Hurts had a special handshake with him, that him and his son have the same handshake, and there was all this. You don't hear that anymore. So I agree with you. I don't think it's necessary that they have a great relationship for them to win, but winning cures all. And when they don't win and you don't have a good relationship, then it gets really magnified.
That's a good point. And this is just my thinking, I'm wondering if, through the years, Jalen Hurts looks and just, you see all the hats and the shirts and everything that Nick Sirianni does outside of, between the line stuff. I just wonder, and it was evident in the Super Bowl where he looked at Sirianni and was like, nah, man, calm down. Don't do that. Yeah. I just wonder if he's not his cup of tea. And that's okay. I have no problem. Like, if he comes in and he sees Sirianni wearing a Fletcher Cox shirt, and he's like, oh, God. Like, maybe that gets on his nerves. I don't know. Maybe they're just not the same. They're not there. And maybe it was in his head like, Nick Sirianni? Oh, no, we put in this new offense. 95% of it, like, we're changing it up. Like, I don't deal with Nick Sirianni all that much anymore. I don't know. And I don't think it's as big a deal as it should be on a radio or a television station or anything for like 6 days after a press conference, I really don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's June. So we need
No,
stuff to talk about. But that's the other part that bothered me, Bob, is Jalen Hurts is smart enough, and the Eagles media relations team is smart enough to know this is the last time you're going to speak to the media until July, till the end of July when training camp starts. So don't give them anything. And to not have just a generic response, he gave us something. And that's what I didn't like, is now, yes, we are talking about it, and people are talking about it in the city, and it's going to be the only thing that we have until training camp starts the end of July.
Yeah, that's true. But, I would have run with it. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was the question and answer of the day about all that. It wasn't a generic question. It wasn't a generic answer either. Well, I mean, it was kind of a generic question. It wasn't a generic answer for sure. We'll see how it all plays out. What can be, this is what I said when you were out, Bill. Right after the press conference, I said, all right, that's it. This is Kellen Moore's offense. There's no doubt about it. Moving forward, we now know that Nick Sirianni is the CEO of the team. He might not have coaching hands like we all would envision coaching hands. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and the only thing that I would have wanted a little bit more detail on was when Hurts said that 95% of what they were installing was new. I wonder if when the season starts, if 95% of the offense is new, or did they utilize this mandatory minicamp to put the new stuff in? That makes sense to me, as you're putting in all of the new stuff during this mandatory minicamp, but does that necessarily mean that come the regular season, 95% of the offense is new? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So, yeah, Nick Sirianni's offense is here. We don't have to go over that because we know it. So the 95% we're going over is new stuff.
Because I went back and listened to that a couple of times where Jalen Hurts was talking about it. He said, 95% of what we're putting in is new. So I don't know if he meant they're just practicing all the new stuff during this mandatory minicamp, or are we going to see a 95% new offense come the regular season?
Right.
We'll have to wait till week 1 to determine that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we're going to put the question out there to you again. Now, indispensable is kind of a weird word, and not a weird word, but Scott Lauber used it yesterday talking about JT Realmuto. Who is your most reliable player in this city, the one you would least like to lose? Now, 2 names are off the board, Jalen Hurts and Joel Embiid. Who are the other ones? Who in this city could you not? Oh, Jake Elliott's also off the list, which I thought was a terrific answer.
Great answer.
Somebody yelled at me on the YouTube page, said, Bob, give her FanFest tickets. Edith deserves. I don't have them at my disposal right now. They will be later on in the show, and maybe we'll get back in touch with Edith and give her the tickets. But, Bill, you weren't around for the big announcement, and you have never been a part of
I'm excited. I am fired up.
But you will be this year as FanFest is back. That's right, 97.5 The Fanatic FanFest 2024, along with FanDuel. It's Saturday, September 28th at Xfinity Live. All the Fanatic hosts, we're all going to be there. Celebrity guests, Philly sports legends. There's going to be activities, games, prizes, so much more to do. You all know how much fun it is. It was funny. Mopar yesterday on our YouTube page, he was like kind of back and forth while I was talking to him yesterday on the YouTube page. He is good to go. Everybody is in. Can't wait. It's the biggest party of the year for Philadelphia sports fans. Listen all week and the weekend because you can win tickets here. Go to 975thefanatic.com for all the details, including info for our online ticket raids, which are pretty cool. Listen, if you want to go to FanFest, you're going to be able to go. Just keep an eye out on how to get tickets, and we will be giving away more and more tickets as the time gets closer. All right, when we get back, some more Phillies talk about, can they keep this up? Can this be a legitimate thing that you lose one of your most reliable, maybe most reliable player for about 4 to 6 weeks? What are your expectations going forward without JT Realmuto? Are they masked behind this team playing so well right now, or is there some concern that you're letting dip in? 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Busy Wednesday here at the Fanatic. Hope you're having a great day. Just love the summertime. Love driving in when it's really nice out like it was again today. Bill, you a big outdoorsman?
I mean, in the summertime, I enjoy being at the beach, but I'm not really like a woodsy type of guy. In fact, I used to own a house in Medford Lakes, and I bought
love
it.
Medford Lakes.
So did I thought. I moved from the city to Medford Lakes, and then after about a year there was a little too many animals for me. I was out.
Too many animals? You're not an animalsman? Now, Ray, you're an outdoorsman. We know. Like, we can't keep you in at all. Phillies games, the beach, all of those things. You love being outdoors.
I like being outside, yes.
Yeah.
I'm outside a lot.
You are.
Yeah.
But, like, would you be a woodsy kind of guy? Would you be able to camp out in the middle of the woods somewhere?
No. Yeah, I'm probably not built for that type of life. I'd do a nice hike, if nice. I'm probably not doing a tent out in the woods, but, like, if you drop me in a home in the woods and, like, you're like, yeah, just live here, I probably could pull that off.
Interesting.
We have, I think, 3 times. So we had a group of friends where we used to live, pool friends that we all belong to the same pool. Probably about 10 families. We camped out for 2 nights in State Forest in Jersey. So you bring your tents, you build your tents, you have your own little community there. You have a big fire pit. The kids, we go fishing, bike riding, all of those things. Wasn't for my wife a little bit. Not even a little bit.
You were like Paulie and Christopher from The Sopranos out there.
Yeah, except it was warm, and we weren't shooting people's ears off. Yeah.
Yesterday was 17 years.
How about that?
Since The Sopranos finale, where the screen went black.
Was there a movie about it afterwards? I didn't see it. So I know there was a Sopranos movie.
Yeah, but it was a prequel.
Okay.
The Many Saints of Newark, it was called.
So if they were to have a sequel to that, would the guy come out of the bathroom shooting?
Yeah, I think he got killed.
Yeah?
I think he got killed because
the whole family get killed?
I don't know, but if you go back and watch it again, the Sopranos series, multiple times throughout the series, they talk about how, 1, you won't hear it coming.
Right.
And 2, it just goes black. So I think they told us leading up to that point that that's what happened at the end of The Sopranos.
David Kelly. Phenomenal.
Great show.
Right, yeah. It was one of my favorites of all time. Sopranos, 17 years, surprising. And, of course, James Gandolfini leaving this earth way, way, way too soon. But, all right, we have a lot to talk about today. We're talking about the player that is so reliable your team couldn't move on well without him. And with this JT Realmuto thing, I got to ask you, are you okay? Do you think the Phillies are going to be okay? Let's look at a 40-game stretch. And if the Phillies are going to play 600 baseball, which is below what they've been playing so far this year, but only 4 teams in all of baseball played 600 or better last season. Do you think that's what the Phillies can do? 400 baseball, 40 games comes out to 24-16. Can they do that? 610-632-0975. Now, the question also is, do they need to do it? Because the Atlanta Braves, as of late, Bill, I put this out there 2 weeks ago. I said every Monday now, I want to look at where the Phillies were last week at that time, and then a week later, because I want a scoreboard watch when it comes to the Atlanta Braves. I think it's a fun way to go through the season because the Phillies are that good this year. 2 weeks ago on a Monday, or little over a week ago, Phillies were 6.5 up. This Monday, they were 9 up. This Wednesday, today, they're 10 up. The Braves are losing. They lost 2 of their best players. They're probably playing the type of baseball you would expect the Phillies to play had they lost 2 of their best players. But confidence level, Bill, with JT Realmuto going out, you would think it goes right to looking at Stubbs and Marchand. But I think it goes bigger than that. I think it goes to the rest of the team, right? How good the rest of the team is.
Yeah, the team is just so deep, and the pitching staff has been so good, and I know Realmuto plays a part in that. But that's what leads me to believe that they're still going to be okay if it's only a 4 to 6 week absence for JT. And you talk about scoreboard watching with the Atlanta Braves. I saw this stat from Bob Ventrone on Twitter.
That's old Boop.
In 142 seasons since 1883, the Phillies have held a 10-game lead in the league or the division standings only 4 times. This year, 2011, 1993, and 1976. I mean, this team is special, Bob.
Yeah, it is. And hey, wait, what were those years again? 1993, 2011, 76.
And 76. That's it. That's the only time they've ever held a 10-game lead in their division.
I've seen all those teams. How cool am I?
You're old. That's what you are.
That's Ray's line, not yours. But this team is so special. What are you shaking your head no at?
I'm not going to say it.
You better not.
You were trying to bait me.
I did not try to bait you.
Bill. Nope. I'm not saying it. I would never call Bob old. Never
That's
have,
right.
never will. Just wise and experienced.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yep.
Oh, we learned some weirdness about Ray while you were gone also. He never looks at the weather.
I heard that. I was tuning in every once in a while on YouTube from Aruba, where we were. And that's just ridiculous to me, Ray. That you rely on other people to tell you the weather?
Yeah.
You don't ever look. You don't go on. The fact that you have a smartphone, which makes it so easy because the weather app's right there, you won't even check it before you walk out the door?
No. I mean, once I walk out the door, I'm in the weather. I figured out what the weather is. Oh, it looks like there's dark cloud, but that way maybe it might rain today.
See, when I was
look out for that.
What's more weird? That you were watching us on YouTube on your honeymoon.
Definitely him. I wasn't going to say it.
You were going to say it,
nope,
Ray.
Not going to say it. Wasn't going to rip him for his listening habits. We appreciate you listening no matter what's going on in your life. But,
so
man.
I'm on the beach in Aruba. My wife is reading a book, and every once in a while I'd put my headphones on and tune into the station because I missed you guys.
No, I honest to God, I don't deny you from doing that. I would not. But no, I'm not. I am not making fun of you. Look, we all have our things that we like, and
well,
I
love sports talk radio. I mean, not only doing it, but I enjoy listening to it when I'm not on.
It's funny, and you bring up age, and I'm a little bit older than you, Bill. You're right. I think that might change a little with age because I have learned to disengage a lot better since I've gotten older. And it's weird, like, when I was in the newspaper business, you can't get away from the newspaper, right? It's always there. It's the reason JT Realmuto is going to get hot now. See, here's what happened. He went over to England, right? You come back from a foreign country, much like yourself, you want to get back in the know again. Not JT Realmuto. Kyle Schwarber picked up, go ahead, write it down, right? Kyle Schwarber picked up the Boston Globe when they got back to the States from England, and he picked up a Boston Globe newspaper, and he looked at it and he said, oh, shoot, that's right. It's June, isn't it? And then, boom, that's where he went. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't like to get away from things.
I'm such a creature of habit, man.
Yeah.
I really am. But you talk about Schwarber. This is crazy, and this is, again, from MLB.com. We all talk about how, Schwarber in the month of June. He now has the best home run ratio in the month of June in Major League Baseball history. He has now become the most efficient home run hitter in the month of June ever. He hits a home run every 10.4 at-bats, passing Babe Ruth, who did 10.6 at-bats. So it's not only something that the eye test tells you or something that we feel. This is legitimate looking at it statistically in the history of Major League Baseball. Kyle Schwarber is the most efficient home run hitter in the month of June.
And he faces real pitching.
Whoa, you taking a shot at Babe Ruth?
Like, seriously?
Yeah.
You didn't see Babe Ruth play.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see what those guys were throwing.
No.
If you go back and look at clips back then, you saw guys throwing faster than moving locomotives. That's how they didn't have the gun back then. So you don't know how fast they were pitching.
I've seen video of Babe Ruth swing. All right.
Shows you what kind of power he was creating.
Yeah.
You see,
Are you really seriously going to say, and I'm not denying you this thought, but you do question the athleticism or whatever of Babe Ruth?
No, obviously, he was best of his time. Just saying, athletes have gotten better over time.
But I think that argument could be made both ways because, yes, athletes have gotten better. Opposing pitching has probably gotten better. But I also think that some of the things that Schwarber's probably doing to train and become a better hitter and more things that we know could also be applied to his advantage as opposed to Babe Ruth probably, smoking cigars and drinking every day.
Yeah, no. I don't think Babe Ruth's workout regimen works in 2024.
It's funny when you go, if you're going to go era thing, all right, let's give the guys now the equipment they had back then.
Oh, this is actually really funny. We talk about this era thing. It reminds me. I'm at my wedding. I walk into the bathroom, and one of the guests who may be listening goes, I was hoping I ran into you. I got a bone to pick with you and Tyrone. And he starts going on and on about how Tyrone made a comment that Wilt Chamberlain wouldn't be as successful in the modern NBA, and the guy couldn't wait to talk to me about how Wilt Chamberlain would still drop over 30 points a game, even in the modern NBA, and the rules had to be changed. So I'm glad this came up because Tyrone needs to defend himself to my wedding guest.
So somebody at your wedding said they were glad to run into you? What, were they going to avoid you?
I guess. It was my father-in-law's friend. Look, Tyrone's coming in here. What's he saying about Wilt Chamberlain in the modern NBA?
They wouldn't score 100, and that maybe not pulling down 50 rebounds. Modern NBA. Look at the numbers.
I agree with you there. That's fair.
We're all being honest. I only saw Wilt at the very end of his career, like on one Saturday afternoon when Kareem was a rookie, and I was like 6 years old or something. So I'm not going to. The only basis of knowledge I have to go with, and Ty, you'll appreciate this, is Stan Hochman would continuously pull me aside and tell me Wilt Chamberlain stories. And I kid you not, I don't know if you ever had the pleasure of meeting Stan Hochman, but I used to work with him at the Daily News. He was a friend of my dad's for a long, long time, so I knew him when I was a little kid. And when Stan Hochman would pull me aside and tell me Wilt Chamberlain stories about conversations they had and all, the hair on my arms would stand up. And, he was kind of making legitimate the stories that many of us thought were outlandish. And, like one of them, he could palm a 16-pound bowling ball. And I remember asking Stan about that and him saying, oh, I never saw him do it, but my God, I don't doubt that he could.
Yeah.
Like that's but it's such a great conversation. I love this stuff that Tyrone brings up. Tyrone makes me, this is how you define, I think, in our business, someone who's good at their job or who you like. Like, whatever. Some people might think we're good, some might not. If they make you think, if they make you laugh, and if they bring something up that you never thought of before, that's my criteria. And Tyrone does that to me often, and I'm lucky because a lot of times I have to run out of here quickly when I'm done because I have to pick up my son from his program or whatever. But, that's era talk always gets me. I always love talking about that. All right, we want to talk to you today, 610-632-0975. How do you feel about this Phillies team? Maybe your most indispensable player, as Scott Lauber described, is out for the foreseeable future, maybe up to 6 weeks. 40 games, 50 games, whatever it is. How do you feel about it? Is the team surrounding that good enough to move forward? Also, are you all right with Garrett Stubbs? How would you handle that situation with him and Rafael Marchand? 610-632-0975. Love to hear from you. Let's make it a conversation today. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Ricky
to Middays with Bob Cooney. I'm Bill Colarulo. Bob ran out for a quick second, but he'll be back. But it's interesting, Ray. During the break, I was looking up the NFL has released their top 50 jersey sales for last year, Bob. Here's Bob.
Yeah, sorry, my key wasn't working.
You're good. You're good.
But listen, I forgot it. No, I'm just kidding.
So the top 50 jersey sales for last season in the NFL was released. Do you know who came in at number 1 and number 2?
Number 1 was number 1.
Jalen Hurts, the number 1 jersey sale last year.
Is this what, throughout the country?
Worldwide, I believe.
Wow.
So this is the year-end top 50 NFL player sales list. This is put out by the NFLPA. Number 1, Jalen Hurts. Number 2, Jason Kelce. So the Philadelphia Eagles have 2 of the top 50. And then Patrick Mahomes is number 3. Travis Kelce's number 4. But then you had some other Eagles in the mix. Devontae Smith, number 17. A.J. Brown, number 21. Even Kenny Pickett. Now, this was his Steelers jersey. Number 34. But
what?
How crazy is that the top 2 spots go to Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, it reeks of 2 things. One, Philadelphia must be buying up a lot of jerseys. Kelly Green came in last year, right? So maybe that
That's it.
up the okay.
I think that's
Kelce retiring had to up him an awful lot.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that both Jason and Travis are in the top 5 because of their podcast success as well. And now Travis Kelce, every Swiftie in the country bought a jersey. So, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, number 5.
Interesting.
Aaron Rodgers, number 6 for the New York Jets. So he's played a couple of snaps, and now did you see he's not attending mandatory minicamp?
I did see that. Yeah, him and Hassan Reddick have decided to take mandatory minicamp off, which is wild. Howie Roseman, I guess another great job seeing something that may have been coming with money with Hassan Reddick and saying, nah, you know what? I'd rather go do without that. I still don't like that move for the defense, but on a business aspect of it, Bill, I guess he saw something in the tea leaves, right?
Yeah, because what I kept saying was I was so curious to see what the new deal was going to be for Reddick by the New York Jets, and if it wasn't a crazy amount of money, then I would have been angry that the Eagles didn't re-sign him. But the fact that the Jets make that trade without having an agreement in place, that's a terrible move by the Jets. I mean, if you're going to make a trade for a guy who is disgruntled with his contract, you should already have the contract worked out before you make the trade. So it looks like it was a good move by Howie Roseman now.
It does, and I don't know what happened up there. I was listening to the morning show today, and they were talking about it a little bit, and I don't know if it was John or Andrew. One of them said that when he was initially introduced up there, Hassan Reddick said, it's all going to work out. I'm happy to be here and all that. Something's happened in between, and maybe his asking price is outlandish. Maybe what he thinks he deserves is just how he was like, nah, no thanks. But how did the Jets not know that?
Once Hassan Reddick was given permission to seek a trade, that comes with the agent also negotiating a new contract. It's just a terrible move by the Jets. And then you look at Reddick's initial press conference with the Jets. He seemed very positive about the fact that they would be able to work something out. Said, hey, I'm just here to play. And now he's not. A very weird situation, but even weirder is at least why Reddick's not there. It's a contract. But the fact that Aaron Rodgers isn't there as the starting quarterback, and I think the reason was he has other things he wants to do besides football. So some weird reason for him not being there. So not a great time if you're a Jets fan.
Another notch in the belt for Howie Roseman, Ray?
So I was talking about this last night with Tom, and it's not yet because it is June. So
Good
you
point.
wait. Yeah. All right. He's not there for a couple practices in June. They figure out by training camp, and he's got 5 sacks in their first 6 games. I don't think we're going to look at it as another notch in the belt. It started to make me ease a little bit on my anger. I'll be honest. I was like, oh, well, that could have been something we'd be talking about here, and I guess I'm glad we're not talking about it here. But Tom did talk me back to all right, it is just June. It's still very early for us to be saying, yeah, they won that one. If they're not getting home to rush the passer this year, and it's like, oh, yeah, remember Reddick missed 2 practices, but he just got his 6th sack as a Jet, yeah, I think we're not going to be sitting here as like, oh yeah, great job, Howard.
And it's funny because I texted Andrew this morning during their show because I was about to get in my car. I was I don't know what it was, but I texted when they brought up Hassan Reddick not showing up there, and I said, oh, that's funny. I did a show on this station. It was like an all-star show type of thing, where everybody at the station was getting on everybody else's show. I wasn't a part of this station yet, but they had me on, and the talk was Fletcher Cox had just signed a huge deal but wasn't going to OTAs. And I thought that was ridiculous. I didn't agree with it. And all the Eagles did was go on to win the Super Bowl that year. So I texted Andrew and just said, hey, Fletcher Cox didn't show up. And he goes, yeah, but did he show up to mandatory minis? I thought it was still just OTAs for the Jets, but it's not. This is Mandy minis for them, and he's not showing up. I agree with you. If he has 6 sacks in the first 4 games next year. Now, this brings me to a question I wanted to ask you, Bill, coming off your honeymoon. Where's your confidence level in Bryce Huff? Because I'm trying, Bill. I'm really trying. I just can't get there. That is the most I need to see it to believe it type of guy maybe on the Eagles take away the rookies because we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, Bryce Huff, it's hard to have confidence level because you just haven't seen him. You haven't seen him do it for an extended period of time. He had double-digit sacks last year. It was the first time he's ever had double-digit sacks. And he still only played a limited amount of reps because he's a liability against the run. So until we see him do it, it's hard to say that you have confidence, but clearly they saw something in him that they like. My bigger concern was after following what happened at OTAs is that Zach Bond right now is your starting off-ball linebacker. I'm blown away by the Zach Bond at off-ball linebacker experiment because you've never really seen this guy play that position. He really hasn't played at all, even in his NFL career. I was looking at the numbers yesterday. Zach Bond in his career has never played more than 300 snaps. That was last year. He played 303. But only 49 of those were at off-ball linebacker. The year before, 15 at off-ball linebacker. You got to go all the way back to 2021 when he played 135 snaps at off-ball linebacker. To put that into perspective, Bob, Nick Morrow last year played 830 snaps. Zach Cunningham, 717. So are we really going into this season? I know it's just June, and maybe this was just an experiment. But are we really going to go into this season with a guy who's never played more than 130 snaps at off-ball linebacker? That's the answer? To me, this just screams, and I've liked all the other moves that they've made, but this just screams to me the Eagles trying to outsmart the rest of the NFL. Is, hey, we're going to go and we're going to get this guy who was mainly a pass rusher along the edge in New Orleans, but we're going to make him an off-ball linebacker, and he's going to be the answer. To me, it's, hey, you're trying to outsmart the rest of the league, and that doesn't always work out well.
Do they have the luxury of trying to do that because their offense is so good?
I don't think so. I mean, that was the mentality we had going into last year was, oh, it's okay that they lost both starting linebackers and both starting safeties because the offense is going to be so good, they'll be just fine. That didn't work out well.
It's interesting. We'll take a little bit of a deeper look into that because I have to admit something to Bill that I kind of admitted while he was away and see what his reaction is to it. Also, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. We started a discussion out in the hallway, and I kind of want to bring it up here. If you could bring back somebody from a different era and put them in this era now to play that sport, who would it be? And how do you think they would do? You can go both ways on this. You can say, oh, this great guy from this era, if you put him here, no, he wouldn't be any good. Or somebody that was great back then that you could plug in and say, they'd be great now. Let's talk about that. We could have some fun with it. 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back. Middays as we hit the 12 o'clock hour. Hope you're having a great one. If you're grabbing some lunch, wherever you may be listening or watching us, we appreciate all you guys. Hello. Good afternoon to our wonderful YouTube family. And yes, I do consider you family because a lot of times you don't talk to people the way you talk to us unless they're family. And I mean good and bad. That's fine. We love it. We appreciate you guys so much, as you already know. Let's not forget, coming up September 28th, FanFest. And you know what? Since we're midway through the show, and since I'm in such a great mood today, I'm going to say right now, Ray, that the 10th caller, because that's the number I wore, the 10th caller at the contest line of 215-263-0975, you are going to win a pair of tickets to FanFest. And, Bill, you have not been to FanFest yet.
I'm excited. Never been.
You need to be. It is an absolutely wonderful, fun time. It was funny. I was sitting with Steve Coates a couple years ago at FanFest, and we were up. They have, like, this little lounge upstairs that we have to go to, like, get some things and stuff like that. And I was talking to Coatesy, and he's like, yo, Bobby calls me over. I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, this is incredible. Like, what the hell is this? And I'm going to show you during our next break. I'll show you some pictures and video from some of the FanFests in years past, Bill. It is so much fun, and it's just great. Like, it's great to meet people. It's flattering that people want to meet us, which is really cool. So made some great friends through FanFest and through different things like that. So it's really cool, and I'm glad that you're going to be a part of it this year. Even Dylan McKinnon, not even Dylan McKinnon, the crowd that follows Dylan McKinnon, it's like being someplace with Allen Iverson. Like, they are just everywhere following him. So everybody's going to be there. Ray Dunn will be there. Bill will be there. I'll be there. So we can't wait for September 28th. Make your plans. And we're going to have more details exactly because we are in partnership with FanDuel about how big it's going to be. Okay, we're welcoming Bill back today as he's back from his honeymoon. We also have to welcome back the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, that's not easy, Bill, going out on a trip like they went on. We talked to Tom McCarthy yesterday, and 2 days ago, and he was telling us, like, I'm taking a walk right now in Boston because he was trying to get himself normalized to East Coast time again. And anytime they would show the bench last night, I was looking for guys like maybe yawning or stretching or something like that to say, yeah, these guys still aren't, like, totally back in their mind time-wise. Did last night's win mean anything more to you than just a 4-1 win over Boston because of that? Because it did me.
Yeah, I thought that was a big win for them. One, you had that disappointing loss to the Mets, and then you talk about the jet lag and all of that. The fact that they were able to bounce back the way they did with that win, I thought it was really big. And Topper called him Topper again. Look at us, Ray. You got us calling him Topper.
You're very influential, Ray.
But Topper talked about it as well, saying, hey, it'll be a lot better of an experience if we can win some games when we get back. So I think this was good to get off on the right foot. But it's not easy. It's not easy, all that travel, for sure.
And I called it an impressive win on the front page today because they just came in and were businesslike. And Zach Wheeler on the mound doing what he did. He was roughed up. Gives up a hit in the second inning, and Boston doesn't get another hit until the ninth. Boston has some shoddy fielding. Phillies take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Phillies relievers come in. Strom comes in perfect. Actually struck out all three in the eighth. Alvarado comes in, gets you the save in the ninth. To me, it was just like, all right, this is what good teams do. This might even be better than a good team.
Now, a lot of people are going to say they got to win. They got to win the World Series. But this team right now is playing great baseball. And you talk about Zach Wheeler. Before going in.
Correct.
And then you saw how the first inning was, and I said to myself, which I shouldn't have said, not trusting Wheeler, being, it's going to be a rough outing for him today. Nope. He figured it out. He's a professional. I'll
tell you, one of the most amazing things about these Phillies pitchers is if they do have a little bit of a rough start to the game, a lot of times they settle in. Like we saw it might have been one of his worst outings of the year, and it was Rangers 3 or 4 runs in the first couple of innings and then gave nothing up for like 4 more innings. Last night, you're right. And it was funny. John Kruk was in the middle of describing, like, all right, you got to watch out here, Wheeler. It doesn't look like he's like has too much strength going in, which is okay, way outside about. But he settled himself in. And I think that's just the trademark of this team right now. But the big news that happened yesterday with the Phillies, of course, was JT Realmuto, it being put out there that he needed surgery. We talked about this a little bit earlier, Bill, but I wanted to go over it again for people that might not have been with us. I do think that this is something that's been going on all year. I think we'll find out at some point, like when exactly did the team know that there was a meniscus problem? When did they decide that now was the time to do it? Was it because he was in a lot of pain? But if I ask you the question, look, 4 to 6 weeks is 4 to 6 weeks. But overall, a knee with a 33-year-old catcher, how concerned are you for the future of JT Realmuto, that it isn't just as simple as, yeah, he'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks and you move along?
If you would have asked me that question before Dombrowski spoke, I was concerned because I had that exact same thought. He's older. He plays a position where it's not going to be easy to come back from any sort of surgery or a procedure on your knee. But unless I said it earlier, unless Dombrowski is just a great poker player, he sounded pretty confident he'll be out about a month. I mean, it was very matter of fact. It wasn't even, hey, we're going to wait to see how it goes. I mean, he made that comment before the procedure was even done. So I felt better thinking, okay, they know what they're doing and they feel pretty good that he'll be back with no complications. So I'm feeling pretty good myself after hearing Dombrowski.
Now, we have a couple of clips from Dombrowski, but there was a longer thing that he said. I'm not going to go to it, Ray. There was a longer statement that he said that I saw on Twitter, and I'm sorry, I didn't copy it, and I don't know who put it out. I forget. But I'm paraphrasing. He said he could have played through it. He has been playing through it. But we just decided, like, now was the time as opposed to wait until later. That doesn't tell me that something just happened immediately. That tells me that, all right, this has been a lingering thing. And the surprising part about it, and I heard the morning show talking about, could you have heard it worse? Well, a medical staff knows. They're not putting them out there if there's a good chance that things could get worse. The only thing we ever saw from JT Realmuto, Bill, and I'm not sure if you were here this day or not, was the Phillies were playing an afternoon game. And he went in. He wasn't playing that day, but he went in to catch the pitcher because I guess Stubbs was putting on his equipment. And at one time, he just shifted himself a little bit in the catcher's stance, and you saw him make a face, a little grimace. He was out in the starting lineup the next day. So we haven't seen a lot out of JT Realmuto. That shows us that there was something wrong. Now, the fact that Rob Thompson took him out for a pinch runner in the 9th inning at second base the other night in the game in London, did you think of anything at the time when he did that, put Stubbs in? Because I said to Ray the next day before we knew anything, I said, yeah, I think he was just being sentimental trying to get Stubbs into a game in England.
Yeah, I didn't think of it at the time. But now in hindsight, being 2020, maybe that was the reason, right? They probably didn't want him on the bases with his knee. I don't know. And I don't know if Dombrowski answered this or not, but if this was September and they were gearing up for Red October, would Realmuto just be playing through this injury? You know, would this have been something that he had to get done?
I got the feeling that, no, he would have played through it. I have a feeling that if push came to shove, I was even wondering yesterday if the Phillies were the Braves right now. And, like, I won't even say the Braves. If the Phillies were like 6 games behind the Braves, would Realmuto go through with it, or would he just got it through the year? I don't know. But Dave Dombrowski did speak yesterday about, how long it might be. And listen to the comfort in his voice when he talks about it.
It should be about a month that he'll be out, and I'd rather it get done now, as he would, get it taken care of, and then know that he's coming back, rather than it stir up later in the year and then have to do it in an inopportune time right down the stretch.
That also tells me, and in an opportune time. They see this as the opportune time. All right, we're going to this is just me speaking. I have a feeling they said, yeah, JT, you can go over to England and play. That'll be cool. I think them taking him out was like, all right, have a good vacation, buddy.
Yeah.
Like we know you're getting operated on. Todd Zalecki was on the morning show today, and he had some more to talk about this.
Nobody understands JT's value more than the team itself. And so even if they were up 2 games, even if they were struggling a little bit, even if, Turner was a month and a half away and Marsh was down or something like that, I think they know that if they want to win the World Series, they need JT. So knock it out, not have this surgery now rather than later, or rather risk him having it later, or risk him struggling in the postseason offensively, defensively, running-wise. So knock it out now.
Knock it out now. I love it. If you got to get it done now. The confidence in me that JT Realmuto will come back and be fine afterwards could be fogged a little bit because of the way he reacts to injury, to playing through pain. I don't know if that's fair or not, but I think he's going to be just fine coming back. Ray, does he return to form, do you think, pretty much right away after this surgery? Are you comfortable with that?
I mean, just how tough he is, you would like to think that he does. I mean, I think it'll take a little bit of time, especially just, again, talk about needs with a catcher. Like, I think it might be a week or 2 before you start to see him at the JT that we would expect, especially if they're saying just a month, and this is something where, the 4 to 6 weeks is thrown out there. I think Todd Zalecki had said, while he was on with the morning show as well, like 4 to 8 weeks is like what he can remember from other catchers that have gone through this. Like, if he's planning to be back in a month and you use that all-star break as a cushion there, all right, 5 weeks-ish, 5 to 6 weeks-ish. I still think there's probably a solid week or 2 it takes before you get right back to the real JT.
Now, 6 weeks from today would bring us to July 24th. And the Major League Baseball trade deadline is July 30th.
Yeah.
See, what I would need to see is I want to see him come back and know that he's okay for the stretch run before the trade deadline. That could be another reason they did it now. Because if Dombrowski does have to make a move, because I'm okay with Stubbs and Marchand for 4 to 6 weeks. But if Realmuto is not going to come back at 100%, we need to know that before July 30th. Dombrowski needs to do something before that. I don't think you go into the postseason if you don't have 100% healthy JT.
Yeah, and they could be looking on the trade market, and Ray, I'll go number 2 on this one. They could be looking to do something on the trade market when it concerns a catcher. That would surprise me this early. That would scare me to say, man, maybe this is something more than we think. But Scott Lauber was on the best show ever yesterday, and here's what he had to say about that.
They'll look around to see what they can find. Very interesting, just today, the Mets designated for assignment Tomas Nido. Not a guy who's what I would call a tremendous upgrade, but he's certainly a guy who's played a little bit at the big level these last few years for the Mets. Maybe somebody like that could help provide some cover. I mean, you're not going to go and trade for a starting catcher on June 11th, and certainly now with Realmuto going down, I think if the Phillies are calling around asking for catching help, everyone knows the price has gone up now for the Phillies. So I think what you're trying to find is a little more depth, guys who could maybe plug in and fill in a little bit more. And if it's just a short amount of time, if it's 4 to 6 weeks, you probably could try to figure out ways to get by with what you have. If it's going to be more than that, I would tell you, yeah, they have to go out there and find themselves a catcher, and it's much, much easier said than done.
So I think timing did come a lot into play with it. And, Bill, you bring up a good point about the trade deadline. But there's another thing about timing that Scott Lauber talked about, and the timing of this, is it coincidence, Bill, that Trey Turner may be coming back this week, maybe as soon as tonight? This is what Scott Lauber had to say about that.
He's gotten back to the point where he was at a few weeks ago in Colorado when he had a setback, and he said that he's at least to that point again, but he thinks he's ahead of that because he's not feeling the tightness or the soreness that he felt in Denver when he had the setback. So he won't put a timeline on it. Rob Thompson won't put a timeline on it, I think, because they don't want to say, like, by Friday, and then Friday he's not in the lineup, and everyone's like, what happened? So I think that they're intentionally being a little bit coy or vague about the timeline, but just in listening to how Trey Turner's talking and, kind of trying to read the tea leaves a little bit, it does sound like, I don't know if it's going to happen in Boston. It's probably closer than it's been, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in Baltimore.
It's amazing how good this team is at a 340. One of the top shortstops in all of baseball is coming back, and it's kind of a secondary story.
Yeah, it is. But my only rebuttal to that is, yeah, it's great that Turner's coming back because over the course of a 162-game season, Trey Turner's going to be better than Edmundo Sosa. But the way Sosa has played in Turner's absence, to me, when you take Sosa out of the lineup and you put in Trey Turner, I'm not seeing a major boost from what Sosa gave you. I understand you do it because Sosa shouldn't be able to keep this up. He's been playing above the rim. But to me, you're not getting a major boost by replacing Sosa with Turner right now based off of what Sosa has already given you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just I love that Trey Turner's coming back. The thing that – all right, Ray, I want to see if you can guess this because Ray's been on me for this a lot, Bill. Sosa played so well, as Bill just pointed out, when Trey Turner was out. Why does that give me concern? You're going to figure this out.
Give you concern?
Why does it give me a little bit concern?
I know where you're going with it.
Do you?
The moment Turner struggles, that the voices are going to be screaming for Sosa instead of him?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going there.
No, that's a great answer, but no. Ray, you should get this. I'm trying to telepathically get.
Don't start with that.
Here it is.
He's going to play at second base. Oh, God
you're
forbid,
never going to
strong
see
hitting right-handed
You're
guy.
never going to see Bryson Stott against a left-handed pitcher this year. That's my concern because Sosa played so. Don't roll your eyes at me. That's mean. Like, that's just not nice. I'm just giving you my opinion of what might happen here. And that's that Rob Thompson saw Sosa play so well and say, I got to get him some at-bats. So you know what? Sorry, Bryson. Every time we face a left-handed pitcher, I'm going to have Edmundo Sosa in there playing at second base.
Well, if he's going to do it, wouldn't you rather be with Edmundo Sosa than Weston Wilson? Or
I'd rather
Whit
he not do it
Merrifield?
at all. That's my point. I'd rather him do it less times than he already does it.
Well, I don't like that it's a concern for you. I feel like you only get stronger with this one. That you end up with a better option than what you've been served. Because when you're talking about, all right, Whit Merrifield's hitting 177, and Weston Wilson just came up from AAA, and they're the guys playing over Bryson Stott, I feel like that would be more infuriating than if a guy like Edmundo Sosa, who's hit like almost 300 in Turner's absence, gets a chance to play at second base. Wouldn't that be more encouraging?
No. Who would you rather have at second base, Bryson Stott or Edmundo Sosa? Exactly.
Depends
That's
on
why I want Bryson
I'm looking
Stott
at the
there.
matchup here. Like, I love Bryson Stott. If they're telling me that they don't think he's an everyday guy, they're around him every day. He played one of the two games in London. They played against two lefties. He's played against lefties more often than they've done with the outfield platoon. They trust him to an extent.
Yeah, I don't like that. I want them to learn to fully trust him. I want him to have the ability to show them that they should fully trust him. Am I wrong?
247 this season.
Okay.
He's
They're trying to protect him, and he's still hitting 247.
You don't need
He's
protection.
batting 246 against lefties, 248 against righties. Pretty identical.
Wait, say that again.
He's batting 246 against lefties and 248 against righties.
I don't know. I've heard John Kruk and the
Now
likes
there's a
tell
lot more at bats though. I mean, 141 at bats against righties, only 57 against lefties.
I've heard John Kruk and the likes tell me over the years, like, this kid's going to battle for a batting title in his years with the okay.
He's not right now.
Well, how's he going to get there if you don't let him hit against left-handers? Or you rarely let him hit against left-hand? I would just look, I'm not going to argue this point. I'm not going to die on this hill, whatever statement you want to make. I do. I want to see him out there. I want to see him playing against left-handers.
It's all right. And if his batting average dips to 230, then we'll talk about it then.
Then you tell him to work out of it. Why do you have trust in Castellanos going against right-handers all the time? I mean, yeah.
Don't look at me on that one.
I'm not.
Don, you're not going to put that trust on me. I was the same guy that should have taken a day off.
There's an easy solution to all this. Trey Turner plays catcher, and then we're fine, right? Let's 610-632.
Yeah, right? Oh, man. I can't believe that the catcher position
That was sarcastic,
come up,
by the way.
Yeah. But listen, I threw something out there. I'd love to hear from you on it, like a fun little middle-of-the-week subject. If you could bring a player from any sport back from an era long ago or maybe not too long ago and put him in this era of that sport and let us know how you think they would do. I'd love to hear from you because Tyrone and I were having a conversation. He was talking about Wilt Chamberlain coming and playing in the NBA now. He thinks he would come in, and I don't want to speak for Tyrone, but the way he described it to me, he'd be like a Ronda Rousey, where he'd come in and he'd be spectacular, but it wouldn't last for all that long because other teams would figure him out. I want to hear what you have to say. Give me a player from another era that you would bring back in this one, and let me know, good or bad, how you think they would be. 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, Middays 97.5, The Fanatic. So glad you're with us. 12:30 here on a Wednesday. Hope you're having a good one. Hump day for many. It's my Thursday, as I'm off on Friday. Got some family business to take care of. Bill, I believe you and Amy will be here on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
All right, very good. Amy Fadul will be joining us tomorrow. As we move forward on the week here, sorry, something was distracting me there just a little bit. It was probably something Ray did or not. So we're having more fun talk with Tyrone during the break there about players from different eras coming back and playing now. What kind of big-name player from a different era would you love to see playing now, and how do you think they'd make out? So we're talking with Tyrone. I was talking about Wilt Chamberlain. I'm not going to pretend to know much about Wilt Chamberlain except what I see in the record books, like many of you, because I never saw him play. But maybe there's a player back in an era that you heard about, that you did see play, that you'd love to see play now. Like, I think, I'll give you my example. I think hockey has changed tremendously over my years of watching it. And I'll even go back to when I was a little kid. I just saw highlights being played last month about when the Flyers won the Stanley Cup, their first Stanley Cup. That was all the way back in 1974. Highlights of the game, they look like they are skating in marshmallows. Like, they are nowhere close to the speed of the game now. The hitting, all of that. Was it still physical? Absolutely. But the speed of the game is so much different. So bringing players back from that era into this one, I think would be hard. But one guy I will say, and I have called him the most dominating athlete of my lifetime, I think you could put Wayne Gretzky, although he's been out of the game for probably 25 years now, you could grab him and put, I don't care where hockey goes, he would be a superstar at any time, any place playing the game of hockey. You have somebody in an era that you'd like to see play, Bill?
Yeah, I would like to see Dan Marino in today's NFL.
That's a good one. That is a real good one. I like that a lot.
I think he'd be unbelievable because now with all the rule changes and how much they've focused on making it a little bit easier on the offense, could you imagine Marino? I think Marino has said he could throw for 6,000 yards in today's NFL.
I wouldn't doubt that. If you, a lot of people out there didn't see Dan Marino play, and he was part of a quarterback era that was just unbelievable. Dan Marino, unfortunately, probably best known as maybe the greatest quarterback that never won a Super Bowl. He could put a football and hold it from his ear and put it on the spot, throwing it forward. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, and hit a guy in stride 40 yards down the field. He was terrific. I love that answer. Ray, do you have one that might be in your mind? And it might be a guy you never saw play.
I'm thinking of today's spacing in the NBA, and I'd love to just see how Allen Iverson would carve up defenses today.
Love that, too. I'll tell you what. Speaking of the NBA, it just reminded me. I saw a video on Twitter yesterday of Joe Mazzulla talking to his Celtics team during various timeouts. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. I think it is amazing the way the Celtics coaching soap opera went down 2 years ago. You put in this guy, Joe Mazzulla, and look what they are doing. They're about to win an NBA title. I think he might be a little underrated as a coach.
Ray, are we hearing Bob's Celtics fandom again?
Does seem like he's got a lot of praise for the Celtics
wearing green
crew
today, too.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. No Celtics fan here. Do not like the Celtics.
Closet Celtics fan. I don't know.
No, I hate. I think players change when they go to Boston, and they just become hateable. You put on that Celtics green, I don't know. Drew Holiday was one of my favorite players to cover, and to this day, his dad was a great dude who I became friendly with and all. Drew Holiday is just a great kid. Really, really like that kid a lot. He might be the only player that has thrown on a Boston Celtics uniform that I haven't said, oh, my God, I used to like you, now I hate you.
So this is a little bit insensitive, but someone on Twitter said that Jerry West couldn't see the Celtics win another championship. That's why he passed away now. Because he was not a huge fan of the Celtics either.
No, a Laker through and through. Was doing work with the Clippers last. Jerry West passed away today at the age of 86. And a guy that every time I saw him at different things, whether it was All-Star games, combines, wherever I saw Jerry West, and, I was part of the, we're labeled as, you're the sloppy media group or whatever. Jerry West always looked like he came out of a magazine. Always very well dressed. Always just looked really good. Obviously, the size, always looked like he was in shape and all. Always looked really good. So our condolences to the NBA family as you lose an icon today. And for those that don't know, if you look at the NBA logo with the player, kind of slanted on the dribble, that is Jerry West.
So I don't know how accurate it was, but did you watch Winning Time, the HBO series that followed the Lakers?
I saw the first season. What'd they do? 2 seasons and then they cut it out, or?
Think it was 2 and then they got cut out?
I only saw the first season as well.
I saw the first season, yeah.
But Jerry West is portrayed in that. I don't know how accurate of a portrayal that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I watched that half laughing because I lived through that era, right? And I'm watching it, and, they show, first of all, the basketball part of it was laughable. Then I look, and I'm doing, some behind-the-scenes look. The guy that played Julius Erving was something like 52 years old. Crazy stuff like that.
I thought it was funny they had Pat Riley was played by Adrian Brody.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Jerry Buss was played by, what's his face, the guy that was in Dewey. Oh, my God.
I'm not going to be able to. Pop culture, I'm not bailing you out.
Yeah, you're talking about the guy from Step Brothers.
Yeah,
I mean,
Step Brothers.
I can't. I'm saying I'm not capable of it. You're looking at me like, get me the name. I was like, I'm not going to be able to get you the name.
Right, John C. Riley? Is
John
that his
C.
name?
Riley.
Right,
Yeah.
it just came to my mind. Really? Wait a second. Time out here in the show. Have we found a flaw in you? Your
This
pop
has
culture?
been a well-documented flaw.
Dude, I swear to God, I did not know this about you.
There was a midday show previous to this one where an hour and a half was spent.
To this one.
An hour and a half was spent on my lack of movie knowledge.
Okay, well then you and I are the same there.
Yeah. No, my pop culture. If you're looking for me to get you an actor's name,
Yeah, see, I'm a big
Good luck.
movie guy.
I got to tell you, movie guy, I am not, as everybody knows. Bill, I don't know if you know this. The last movie I saw in the movie theaters, Titanic.
Wow.
I do not like going to the movies. And
Wait, you saw one of the greatest movies of the last, 20 years, maybe longer, and they never went back.
I went out
Never
on
went
top.
back.
No, here's the story behind it.
It was at the theater way too long.
Yeah, right? The story behind it is this, and this is honest to God. Summertime, I was 11 years old, and it was raining out on a summer day. And my friends and I from the neighborhood, there was a movie theater we lived right behind a shopping center. There was a movie theater in there. We went to the movies. May have been Jaws, but I don't think it was, whatever. We come out of the movie theater, and it's beautiful sunshine, and you can tell it had stopped raining for a while. I was so upset that I was sitting inside a movie theater when I could have been outside playing stickball, basketball, whatever. I'm not kidding you. I'll never forget that feeling. I was upset that I wasted time sitting inside when I could have been outside playing at 11 years old. And from then on, I never really cared going to the movies. And I apologize endlessly to my wife about it because, who doesn't like to go to the movies with their wife? We haven't been to a movie together since 1998.
See, I love going to the movies.
I just don't. If I'm going to be alone with my wife for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, or if you're with your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, I want to talk.
Oh, I agree with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. I think that's also part of the movie thing for me. The one thing that I'll go back to this Winning Time, and this is why I don't think I ended up watching a ton. I was flying somewhere. I want to say it was with the women's team, and I was probably meeting them at some place. On the plane, I was like, oh, Winning Time. I've heard about this. Do you guys remember the open to Winning Time, the first episode?
Ooh, no.
I believe he's at the Playboy Mansion when it opens up.
Magic is?
No.
Who?
Jerry Buss.
Oh, okay.
The open of that for an HBO series, to be watching that on a plane is an incredibly uncomfortable situation. I was like, oh yeah, Winning Time. I've heard so much about it. Let me turn it on. Opening sequence is like, I hope no one's looking over my shoulder what I'm watching right now because they're getting the absolute wrong idea of me as a human being. Very uncomfortable plane watch where it was like, yeah, okay.
Did you close the computer real quick, or what'd you do?
It was one of the screens. It was on one of those planes that had the screens in front of you. And I was like...
That is an uncomfortable feeling.
Massive uncomfortable feeling. I was like, yeah, I'll catch up on Winning Time in my own time. Like,
yeah, because
I'm not doing this on the plane.
They don't edit. They don't PG the movies on the planes. So you're sitting there and everybody sees what you're watching.
I was never a movie watcher on the plane either. Like in my old job, I was flying close to 100 times a year. I never got into that pattern of watching a movie.
In my professional life, I was an attorney before this. I had to go to the Philippines for work, which was a 24-hour journey. We went 12 hours to Qatar, and then we went another 12 hours to Manila. I loved it. Because I was completely unplugged. I watched like 12 different movies on that trip. It was amazing.
Yeah, like my wife's all we're flying on Friday morning, but it's only like a little over an hour flight, and she's trying to decide what movie to watch because she hates flying. I'm like, we're only going to be in the air for like an hour and 3 minutes. Like, what do you? But she's got to have that movie because definitely afraid of flying. I feel bad for people like that. I remember one time I was on a flight. I sat next to a lady, and I can't remember if she was older or younger, whatever, was horribly scared getting on the plane to the point where the flight attendant walked her down and sat her down and, of course, sat next to me. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm just so afraid to fly. I said, all right, if it makes you feel better, I have a job where I fly almost 100 times a year, and I've never had a problem, so don't worry about it. And she goes, that means you're due for one now. And I was like, no, we're not due for one. But in the middle of the flight, we hit a little turbulence. When I say she grabbed my arm with the strength of 100 men, I kid you not, to the point of I had to concentrate to not make a face of, you're killing me. But, yeah, I do feel bad for people like that. But I don't know. Flying never bothered me, and
I think Andrew's that way.
Movies do. Andrew doesn't like to fly?
No, I believe that's the reason he gives for why he hits the hotel or the airport bar so quickly.
I mean, a beer or two before you go on a flight. Yeah,
No,
I never drink on a flight. I can't do that.
No, not drinking on the flight. Before the flight.
Yeah, before the flight's fine. Yeah,
Not on the flight.
Yeah, no, not on the flight. Never did that. All right, let me get Lewis and Penn talking real quick before we go to break here. Lewis, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, fellas, how are you?
Doing great.
I like to really comment on this. I don't think people understand that Wilt would dominate the NBA right now. And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why. First of all, the NBA is not set up right now to even deal with traditional centers that are great centers. So that's one of the reasons why JoJo and Jokic dominate, is because they're not set up. They don't even know how to defend the post. You're talking about Wilt Chamberlain. I had a friend at my job who used to watch Wilt Chamberlain down at the convention hall. He said he averaged 8 to 10 block shots. He would take guys' jump shots out the sky. You see what Wemby does? That's what he would do on a consistent basis. I think people don't really understand the type of athlete he was. He did the 4x400. He's a 440.
Yep.
He ran a 440. He jumped the high jump. People think that because he was back in the day, he was an athlete, and he was strong as I don't know what. You ever see the picture where he's got one arm with Arnold Schwarzenegger holding him up with Andre the Giant? People don't understand the type of. It's not fictitious. This man was a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. And understand this. Go back and see. If people talk about the Dirk jump shot, when the turnaround, that was Wilt. Look it up. It's in YouTube. Somebody told me that. I was like, I didn't believe that. Go to YouTube and see it.
Lewis, let me ask you something. Did you see him play? And just an honest question, because I didn't see him play much either. But did you get to see him play?
No, but my dad.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that's fine. That's okay.
I'm just saying, my dad was a Wilt fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my wife. My mother actually. My wife actually used to go to this club and stuff like that. She actually dated Kareem in high school, and she always has she used to always be a big Wilt fan too. Her and my dad, they love Wilt.
Yeah,
So
my dad,
anyway,
Lewis, my dad was the same way. Thanks, we got to get running here because we're up against the break. My dad was a huge Wilt fan and told me so, but I was lucky enough to talk to people who covered Wilt Chamberlain, and I just always feel that a treasure. All right, when we get back, I have another question I got to throw out there to you as we talk about the eras. I still would love to hear you say, who's an athlete you would like to see come back, and how do you think they would fare in this era? Pick a sport. Pick a player. How do you think they'd fare in this year? I'd love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Bill Colarulo here with us today. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Just a reminder, at 1 o'clock, Matt Breen from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, is going to be joining us. Always love having Matt on the show because whenever you get a columnist that can write about anything and everything, and especially good human interest stories, I find those people a lot of fun to talk to. And we'll talk to Matt about this JT Realmuto injury, which is kind of the big talking point of today. I strangely feel okay about this. I don't know why. I don't like a lot of my feelings lately, Bill, when it comes to sports. One, I'm looking at the Eagles, and, you process in your mind and you go through things, leading up to training camp, which is still a month and a half away. You just said it. Oh, my God, we still got a month and a half without, much to go on with the Eagles. But I feel bad in that a lot of the subjects in my head that I go to when it comes to the Eagles aren't positive. And one of them was yesterday I brought this up, the opening game. I was so excited about, oh, cool, Packers, that's going to be a good game. It's in Brazil. It's a Friday night, which we've never done before. We've never done a Friday night regular season game in Philadelphia before. In warm weather. If we want to sit in a pool and watch an Eagles game, we don't have to be down in Florida or in the Caribbean. We can do it right here in Philadelphia, in South Jersey. I was all excited about that. Then I got to be like, wow, Packers team's really good. I don't know if they can win that game. We talked to Brian Westbrook last week, and he reiterated again what he said to us before, in that you got to get out to a good start. Otherwise, those bad memories from last year might creep in again. Then I see that the NFL comes out with a little bit of concern that, wearing green in the part of Brazil where they're going to be could be a problem because gangs and green don't go together. And then I started looking at the offense, which everybody's excited about. And during the OTAs and then mandatory minicamps, man, if something happens to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, you really don't have a third wide receiver. And then you look at the tight end, you say, ooh, what's the deal that if Dallas Goedert were to go down, what do you have there? The head coach was asked about the lack of depth in the wide receiver core. He went to Calcaterra as his first talking point. Like, is there more positivity floating in your mind about the Eagles at this point in the juncture, Bill? Is there more positivity in your mind than question marks or negativity?
Well, the NFL came out and refuted what Josh Jacobs said about wearing green in Brazil. Right. They said, no, you can wear green in Brazil, because that would be very strange that you put two teams over there whose colors are green.
Whose fan bases travel well,
and tell them they can't wear green. But, look, it's June, and a lot of the big splashes that the Eagles made in free agency with Saquon Barkley, most importantly, got the fans excited, as they should be. But there are some major question marks. We've talked about them at length on this show. When you look at the defense, there's a lot of question marks still on that side of the ball. But they had a good draft. They signed Saquon Barkley. They brought in Bryce Huff, so people were excited. They brought in a good offensive and defensive coordinator. So that's why there's a lot of positivity. But I know Brian Westbrook said, hey, it's important for them to come out to a hot start. I've been preaching, especially on my weekend shows, that I think we need to be patient with this team to start the year, because you are dealing with a whole new offense. You are dealing with a new defensive coordinator. There are going to be a lot of young players at new positions on the defensive side of the football. So I would not be surprised if they came out and things weren't firing on all cylinders, and I think you should be patient with this team. Now, whether or not fans are going to be is a whole other story, but you could very easily lose that game in Sao Paulo to the Packers. You could even lose the game against the Falcons with Kirk Cousins at their quarterback now. I know Kirk Cousins doesn't perform well in prime time, but the guy has the ability to put up yards. So I'm preaching patience. I think the team will eventually be okay. I don't know if it's going to be as quick of a start as we're all hoping, but, yeah, the noise is going to be loud, Bob, if they come out to an 0-2 start.
Well, okay, 0-2 would lead to, at best, 2-2 come the break, come the bye week. Our patience doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The patience of Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman does. We've had a lot of talk about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, but Nick Sirianni and exactly what is it that you do here over the last few weeks. Are they going to have patience with him if that break is 2-2 and things aren't on all cylinders yet?
Yeah, and I've said this before because there were some talk about, hey, that bye week could be a time where the Eagles would move on. I would be absolutely shocked if Jeffrey Lurie made any coaching change before the season was over.
So would I. To be on record, so would I.
Yeah, look, you only saw him do it one time, and that was Chip Kelly, who we now are learning more and more about how bad of a human being he was when he was here.
And there was only one game to go, right?
And I think there was only one or two, and they made Pat Shurmur, I think, the interim coach. But so I don't see them. You don't make the decision to bring back Sirianni and then decide after 4 games we're ready to move on. It's not going to happen. So I could look. I say it's not going to happen. Maybe they'll. Let's hope we don't find out, Bob. Let's hope they're not 0-4.
I agree with you there. If they're playing like they were at the end of last year, it wouldn't surprise me that desperate times call for desperate measures. But we'll see how that all plays out. All right, when we get back, Matt Breen from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com, is going to be joining us talking about all things Philadelphia sports. Want to get his take on the JT Realmuto situation. Let's not forget, we had a practice here on the midday show a couple weeks ago, I believe it was, where we put out who's the MVP of this team. He was my MVP for a lot of different reasons. The MVP is out of the best team in baseball for a little while now. I want to see what Matt Breen's reaction to it is, and yours. 610-632-0975. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. That 12 o'clock hour we just gave you was brought to you by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. All right, on the line now on the Comcast Business Hotline, we love talking to our friend every Wednesday, Matt Breen from Inquirer.com. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm good, Bob. How you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Thanks so much for the time once again. I want to start off by asking you, it's kind of the subject of the day, Matt, and I know something you've given a lot of thought to. I put out here on these very airwaves like 2 weeks ago, I asked everybody here and then people in the audience, like, who's your MVP for the Phillies? We came up with a lot of different answers. Mine was the guy that just had to get surgery on his meniscus, and JT Realmuto. In your mind, how big of a loss is this for the team if it lasts over like a 40-game span?
It's a big loss, obviously. You know, we all know the significance he has on this team when he's healthy and the multiple things he does besides just squat behind home plate. But if it's a month and that takes you past the All-Star break and he comes back when they're in Pittsburgh on July 19th, I think that is it's a significant loss that you can you can overcome. And they have a backup catcher who really hardly plays, but I think is a guy that's capable of batting at the bottom of the lineup and handling the pitching staff. He's familiar with all the pitchers. He's been here for 3 years now, has a good rapport with all those guys. So I think Stubbs can hold his own. I think he can hold it down for a month, you know, assuming that's all it is. And then look at JT Realmuto. Never takes a day off. And by the end of these seasons, the last few years, they go deep into October. He's a guy that's kind of, you know, wearing down a little bit. So in a way, maybe this is a way to get him. Obviously, you need to get his knee fixed, but you're getting him off his feet for a month in the middle of the season. He's going to be fresher. If the surgery's well, he comes back, he's fine. He's fresher by the end of the season when you need him. You know where you're going. You know where the season's going to end up. You know they're going to get to October. And this is why it's so important to win early and to get off to a good start, is that you can lose one of your best players for a month, and it's not the end of the world because you built yourself such a cushion with the way you performed in the first half of the season.
And the Phillies already lost one of their best players for an extended period of time, but it looks like he's coming back. Trey Turner. What are you hearing about when Turner's going to come back, and what can he do for this lineup?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they lost Turner, and it's not even like a storyline because it didn't really affect them because of the way Sosa played. And I was reading this week, Scott Walberg was over in England for us, and he said that he wrote that Turner could be back as soon as this week and wouldn't possibly not even a rehab assignment, which reminds me of the way Bryce Harper, came back last year without a rehab assignment. So, if he's back this week, that's great. That is your offensive. I mean, it's not he's not going to catch, but it's at least you're losing a bat in the lineup with JT leaving. You're getting a bat with Trey Turner coming back, and it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, Sosa's been great with Turner on the IL. So how do they kind of use Sosa at the same time? And that worst case scenario is that he's another weapon off your bench.
If I were to say it's going to be a 40-game stretch, Matt, and we're talking to Matt Breen from Inquirer.com on our Comcast Business Hotline. If I were to say it was going to be a 40-game stretch without JT Realmuto, what record are you comfortable labeling to that 40-game stretch, Matt?
I think there's obviously they're better than 500, right, in that 40 games. And I think if you went 25-15 in those 40 games without JT, I think that's a success. I think you probably wouldn't lose much ground to where you are now in that stretch. It'd be hard for the Braves to pick up space if you went 25-15 in 40 games. So I think that's doable. This is the team that's really won so much because they're pitching, and I think the pitching is where it's at because of JT behind the plate, obviously the arms that they have, and the pitching coach, which has been such a, this season has been incredible, I think, with his game planning and getting these guys on the same page. And he's been around for a few years, so it's a lot of trust that's built up between him and the pitchers. And I think Stubbs can carry that on, can continue that he's not an everyday catcher for a full season, but I think he is familiar enough with this staff with the time he's been here to patch you. If it's 40 games, if it's a month, whatever that sample size is, without Realmuto, I think Stubbs can hold the fort down.
And Matt, it's June, and we saw Mr. June show up last night, Kyle Schwarber. What makes him so good in the month of June? It's crazy, man.
I don't know. And like, in all honesty, like, I know it's like, I think Schwarber's been actually, it seems like he always was in a slump before June, and like he needed that June, but I think he's been pretty steady this year, where it wasn't, you weren't waiting to get to June so Schwarber can start hitting. I think he really produced, the entire season up until this point. And, well, whatever it is, I mean, I don't know, warm weather maybe, that, he likes to hit in June historically. But I think the important part was that it's great that he hit 2 homers last night, and it's June, and he's hitting. But I think it's even more important that he was producing at a decent rate going into June as well.
Matt, you have a story on Frank Wycheck. I'm not kidding you when I say I read a line and it made the hair on my arm stand up. And the line was about Frank Wycheck, who many of you know, local guy, went to Archbishop Bryan, then played at Maryland. One of the most famous plays in the NFL he was a part of, throwing the lateral at the Miracle. What was it called? Miracle?
Music City Miracle.
Music City Miracle, my fault, yeah. You wrote a story about it. The line that made the hair on my arm stand up was, he died because of football. Explain that a little bit. Explain what the story was and how that all went for you.
Yeah, you said Frank Wycheck grew up in the Northeast, went to Ryan, was a superstar football player in high school in Philadelphia at the time, and went on to the NFL. Had a great career in the NFL. Was Travis Kelce before Travis Kelce. The tight ends were a different breed then. The game was a lot different, but when Frank Wycheck retired, he was one of the 4th best tight ends ever. So he was a superstar, Pro Bowler, and obviously Music City Miracle is his legacy is that play. And then after his career, his career ended because he had 2 concussions in the span of a month, and that was on top of a lot of concussions throughout his career. So he finally had to retire in his young 30s. And he retired. He went into radio in Nashville and had a successful radio career, hosting a morning show, doing what you guys do, and was good at it. And then the concussions, the symptoms from this concussion started bleeding in and affecting his day-to-day life and affecting his relationships with people, his job, and it just bad. I mean, I didn't know what I was getting into, with this story at the beginning of it. I never met Frank Wycheck, but I grew up parish over from where he grew up. So I always felt like I knew Frank Wycheck, went to the same high school. And so I just wanted to write a story about, Frank Wycheck came from Northeast Philly, got to the NFL, and to see what happens. And then you find out that the struggles that he had, and I thought the one part that was great was that even though he struggled so much, at the end of his life, he was turning the corner. At least his family felt so, and so did he, that he had moved back to Tennessee after coming back to Philly, went back down, and was living near his daughters and spending time with his grandkids and sending pictures back home and how happy he was. And then he died right before Christmas. So it's sad, but it's just a reminder of what this game takes, the toll that these players pay to play, and then also the part where Frank Wycheck lived a great life. He would do it all over again. His daughter said it. Football gave him a lot. He also paid the price for it, and that's what one of his teammates said. Zach Pillar, who had a locker next to him in Tennessee for all the seasons they played together, he said football killed Frank, and I guess in a way, obviously, football didn't kill him, but I think football led to his decline in life after football.
Yeah, really good story, Matt. Make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. And as we're talking about football, obviously, mandatory minicamp finished up last week with the Eagles. What was the biggest surprise for you coming out of mandatory minicamp?
I don't know if there were surprises. I guess that James Bradbury was going to be a safety, right? I mean, we never saw it, but I guess that was a surprise. I didn't see that coming. But I'm just curious. I just want to get past the Hurt stuff and the Sirianni stuff and get to training camp so it can be like real football talk. I mean, just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. I love football, but I just want to get to like when it starts to matter a little bit more, and that's in training camp.
Do you have concern? We're talking to Matt Breen from theinquirer.com on the Comcast Business Hotline. I hear your voice, and I feel the same way, Matt, and I've been in your position before. But do you have, it's been such talk, do you have concern about a relationship, I'll put it in general, between a quarterback and his head coach, and then if you want to specifically get into Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni?
No, and I do, and I'm not trying to blow it off as nothing because I don't think it is nothing. But like, it does concern me a little bit because, and there's like no one knows. It's hard to explain. Like, what did he actually mean? What was he implying? Like, and that's where it's just like we have nothing really to dissect besides that. So it just kind of grows legs. But I think at the root of it, there is like at least reason to be curious or concerned about like what is actually happening. And it takes me back to like the Bucs game. After the Bucs game, he kind of had the chance to stand up for Sirianni, and he kind of didn't. And a lot of it, I think, really, I don't think it's either it's Hurts burying the coach, or my actual thing is what I think is that he tries so hard to not say anything that sometimes by not going out of his way to not say anything is when he says like the wrong thing in a way. Like I feel like whenever he's up there on a press conference, it's from his college days. It's like very defensive, guarded, and every question is almost like a dagger that he's like dipping out of the way of. And I think he tries so much to be boring or just not give any information away. So like then a question like that happens last week, which is a softball question, and he avoids it, and then by avoiding it becomes a bigger issue than it is.
Yeah, it was a softball question. It had me concerned. But let's assume that there is a little bit of an issue between Sirianni and Hurts. Do you think that prevents a team from winning if a head coach and its quarterback aren't seeing eye to eye or don't have the best of relationships? Or do you think a team can win even in spite of that?
Yeah, we found out that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick probably didn't have the best bond at the end, and they won despite that. But that's probably the rare occurrence. I'm sure, not that they have to be best friends and buddy-buddy, but like they should be on the same page with when they're on the field and when they're in the building and stuff like that. So I think it is important. You can't have disregard for your head coach and be successful in the same way that head coach can't disregard his quarterback and be successful. So I think they do have to be on the same page. I have no idea if they are or not. Like, I'm just reading the tea leaves of the press conference just like you guys are. And the track record says, they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they started off, they were the best team in football a year ago for the first, 4 months of this season, first 3 months of this season. So I think there's enough to believe that they are on the same page despite what he did or did not say a week ago.
Matt, I'm going to leave you with this. We put this out there today because we were having some Wilt Chamberlain talk behind the scenes here at the station. If you could take an athlete from a different era, no matter the sport, and put him in this era now, tell me who it would be and how you think they would fare.
I mean, Wilt's the easy one, right?
Right. So I'm taking that off the board because you're too smart for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt agrees. You're right. I agree. I am too smart for that.
I would like to see like these, Cy Young, like your legendary pitchers, Satchel Paige, Robin Roberts, these guys from another era. How hard did they actually throw? And I'd like to see them against today's hitters and see what happens.
Fair enough.
And also give them the opportunity to train, like today's pitchers train too, and see how hard they can throw and how they can succeed in this day and age.
Yeah, good answer. That was one of the things that I brought up too. And I'm glad you mentioned the pitchers from past because, Matt, we're going to let you go. I have a stat on a pitcher from 1968 that I think is going to wow everybody. Matt, so glad you could join us. We will talk to you again next week.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
All right, buddy. You too. You have a good one also. Now, I'm glad that Matt brought this up. He talked about pitchers from a different era. I don't remember seeing this guy pitched, although he did pitch a little bit during my lifetime, but I have heard stories about him. And that's one Bob Gibson. Okay, mean-ass pitcher. Had Tim McCarver go out to the mound to talk to him one time and stared at him so fiercely that McCarver didn't make it all the way there before he turned around and went back behind the plate. And I think he said something to him like, I don't tell you how to catch, don't you tell me how to pitch. Really cool, intimidating guy. But listen to this. Here are the innings pitched per game by Gibson in 1968, okay? Now, Bob Gibson was going up against great hitters back then. Here's the innings, Bill. See if this impresses you at all. 7, 7, 9, 9, 12, 11, 8, 9.2, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 11, 9, 9, 9, 9, 10, 8, 9, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9.
That was the average innings pitched?
Those are the innings pitched in every game that he pitched that year in 1968.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
12 innings in a game?
Oh, yeah. He went back-to-back games. He went 12 and 11. Coming off 2 consecutive 9-inning full games.
Now,
I'd like to see Bob Gibson pitch in this year. That's a good one.
The argument to that would be, though, the spin rate and the speed and all that of the pitches made it where the arm could handle that many innings, whereas now your arm would fall off.
Yeah, I guess, but from what I was told, Bob Gibson would throw it high and tight at a chin that would scare the bejesus out of anybody. And let's not forget, he was going against the Pete Rose, the Willie McCoveys, the Willie Stargels, the Willie Mays. Like, he was going against some of the greatest hitters of all time back in that era. That was a great, great baseball era. But I do love that kind of talk. It is always, probably because my dad was so, my dad had me late in life, very, very late in life. So he could go back to a time, obviously, that I had no idea about. And the stories that he would tell, Bob Gibson's one that I would love to see pitch in this era to see what would happen. Do you guys have some other ones, since we brought this subject up earlier, about players that you would just love to see in this era? Maybe not to dominate, but just to see what would happen. Because I have a list of names here that I'm going to give to you guys when we come back from the break to see from our YouTube people to see how you think they would fare.
What's off the list so far, Bob? So I said Marino. You said Gretzky.
Gretzky,
right?
Chamberlain's off the list because he started it all. And Bob Gibson, since I just said
Ray
it.
said Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson's an interesting one. How do you think he would fare in this year? You think he would be better than he was?
Higher point scorer. I am interested more. I think about like the efficiency, how it would translate to this day and age, but I think definitely score more points. I mean, I think just the way it's officiated and the way the game's played now probably lends itself to, he put up 30 a game? I think he starts pushing 35, 36?
Really? Okay.
You just think the opposite? You think it'd be tougher?
I think defense is a lot different, though. We have to look at that also. And the way they key on star players defensively now. When Iverson was there, and you know what? Tyrone was great at pointing this out to me. One of the years with the year that Jordan won the title against Utah when he hit the game-winning shot, they didn't double-team him.
No.
Iverson, I don't recall getting double-teamed an awful lot. You know, it was a lot of one-on-one basketball back then. Nowadays, you do get a lot of double teams. You do get a star player getting jumped an awful lot by 2 players. So Iverson's interesting, and I have a lot of names here. Go ahead, Bill. Give me one, because I have a lot of names here. And Larry Deaver, I see what you're saying. Of course, he's at the top of my mind, and we'll get to that when we get back. But give me one, Bill.
Now, I never was able to see this person play because I'm too young, but I'd like to see Jim Brown in the modern NFL.
That's so funny you said that, because when I just mentioned my dad, that's the first name that I thought of.
I mean, you talk about dominating. Oh. The numbers he was putting up back in the 60s were insane. And he went out, he retired very young.
Yeah, that is a great one, because he is, as far as my dad and people that I talked to during that era, by far the best athlete that they ever saw, and comparable to like a Bo Jackson and a Deion Sanders, those type of guys. But when we get back, I'm going to throw out some names. I want to get your reaction to it. If you want to chime in, 610-632-0975. I'm throwing out some names from players of eras before us. How do you think they would fare in the NBA today, or not the NBA, in sports today? I'll throw out a bunch of names. We'll see what you have to say. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, Middays. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Hump day for an awful lot of people. Luckily for me, it's my Thursday. I'll be off on Friday. Bill and Amy Fadul will carry you through on Friday. Got a little family business I got to take care of, so I'll be back at you on Monday. But taking a day on Friday, another long weekend for me in the summer. That's what I like to do.
I would be annoyed with you. You know my friend that was just in London?
Yes, Zach.
Yeah, off to the shore.
What?
Yeah, must be nice.
He must work at a school or something, like they have off in the summertime.
Yeah, he must, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Just got the text off to the beach, so I got to take care of the place for another few days.
I hope when he got back, did he like at least clean the place or something like that? Or
well, no, it was clean because
because you
right. We want to make sure he comes back to a nice home.
Aw,
yeah.
You're like the ultimate roommate.
No,
I think you are. You're not around all that much, and when you are, you're pretty good at what you do.
You'd have to speak to the roommates on that one about that.
Yeah. So we had Zach's friend on, or roommate on, also friend, from London last week. He was out there for the Phillies game, and it was
Who's Zach?
his roommate.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's okay. We'll get that one on Friday.
Gotcha. You said we had Zach's friend on. I'm like,
you have Zach's roommate on every day, actually.
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
We'll hear that again.
London looked fun, though. It did. It looked like it was a good trip for the Fightins.
It did. It looked fun. Tom McCarthy said it was just a ball, and he was talking about it on air last night, all the different things that he did. It seemed really cool. I love it. I love that they went over there. I don't care they went one-on-one. I thought it was a really cool weekend thing. All right, one of the subjects we're talking about today is players from a different era. And you guys on YouTube have been phenomenal with some of the names you brought up. So good that I want to bring them up to Bill and Ray and talk about how these players you think would fare in this era. And there's one, I would love to get Tyrone's take on this. Larry Bird. How do you think Larry Bird's game would fare in this era? Larry Bird was like a 26, 28-point-a-night guy, double-digit rebounds, close to 10 assists, phenomenal passer. People say, his defense sucked. Of course, he was slower of foot, but if you watch him, he held his own defensively. I'll say that. And Dominique Wilkins and the likes have come out and talked about that. That, yeah, you think he wasn't a good defensive player, but he certainly held his own. What do you think Larry Bird would do in this day and age, Bill? Now, Ray, it's going to be harder for you because you didn't see much of Larry. I guess you didn't see much of Larry Bird either, but
I didn't. I mean, his last season, Larry Bird was 92, so I was 9. So I don't really remember him that much. What I remember the most is the Bird and Jordan commercials.
Yeah.
For Nothing But Net with the McDonald's commercials.
They were hysterical, weren't
they? Were great. They were the best. But just, looking at his highlights and the position he played and the style of play, I think he'd actually fare okay in today's NBA.
I think he'd be absolutely more. I think he'd be really, really good today. I hate the Celtics, have always hated the Celtics.
That's up for debate, though.
I was smart enough when I was a kid to watch Larry Bird and say, wow, I appreciate that guy's game. He got the most out of his game that he could possibly get. I think he would fare tremendously well. All right, I'll go baseball back in the day to you, Ray, because you didn't see Larry Bird, so this guy is a legend, and none of us saw him play. You've already said that Babe Ruth you don't think would have been any good today. You say he would have.
I didn't say not any good.
No, you
did. But
compared him to kind of Steve Jeltz, I believe.
No,
like
that's insulting. Steve Jeltz at least had a career,
Wow.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Ray Dunn
I was
taking
waiting
shots
for Bob to figure to.
He was the Shohei Ohtani of his time. Babe Ruth was. No,
for
not
like
well.
a year.
But hold on. Ray said
Ohtani's done it for multiple years at the same time.
He was 19-1 the last year he pitched in the major leagues.
Yeah, he was.
Babe Ruth was.
And then he went focused on hitting.
Now, Ray's
Ohtani's
not
done both of them in today's age. Ohtani greater than Ruth.
Wow. So Ray's not a movie guy, and either is Bob. But what movie is it where some woman gave my dad this ball, Baby Ruth?
That's Sandlot.
Sandlot.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. At least you know that one. I was going to say, if you don't know that.
I've seen
The
Sandlot.
Sultan of SWAT? All right, but I wasn't. Babe Ruth, you don't think. How about Ted Williams?
I wouldn't know. Never saw
Either
him
would
play.
I. never saw him play.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's still
there's still, I think there's still things that relate. Like, again, they would be good. Do I think we're talking, like Ted Williams, I would say still has a place in the game.
I think he would be an all-star over and over and over again. From what I've been told, and again, I was lucky enough to talk to guys that saw people like this play. He might still be the best hitter in baseball. The greatest stat ever. No, I exaggerate. One of the greatest stats ever. So Joe DiMaggio has a 56-game hitting streak. During those 56 games, Ted Williams had a better average than him.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Now, that's one that I don't think will ever get broken. The 56-game hitting
no,
streak.
never. No, that won't.
Especially not with the 3 true outcome era. Like, unless we take a total shift in the way they approach hitting, I don't think that'll ever be broken.
Yeah.
All right, I think his game would translate, but I want to ask you how. Would it be different at all? And that's Michael Jordan. How do you think his game would be different now if he played in this era of basketball, which, let's not forget, and I've brought this up a lot of times, Michael Jordan's era, there was a rule among the NBA, especially started by the Detroit Pistons. If Michael Jordan drives the lane, he ends up on the floor. That's how physical things were back then. Jordan played in a physical time with a finesse game. Do you think his game would be even better now?
Well, I think he would probably shoot more threes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
and he would have taught himself to be a better three-point shooter, right?
Yeah, I think that element of his game would have been enhanced. Yeah, I'm biased because I think Jordan's the GOAT. Whenever that debate comes up between him and LeBron, I still always go Jordan. So I think he'd be fine. I think he was so competitive that whatever he needed to do to be the best in this modern NBA, he'd do it.
How about you, Ray? You didn't get you didn't get to see Jordan play either, did you?
No.
Man, you are deprived.
Yeah, I have been deprived. So unfortunate I haven't been able to see all these guys. I mean, listen, is he going to still be an all-star in the NBA? Still going to be one of the best players in the NBA? Yeah. I mean, I would be interested. You mentioned it when we were talking about Iverson, the different ways that they would scheme up to play defense against him. I mean, I'd be interested to see just the different ways you approach him.
Yeah.
And does a guy like Jordan end up bringing more physicality out of people of like, all right, let's see how we can slow this guy down. Like, I don't know. I don't know how it will work in today's NBA versus that, but I think he's still one of the best players of all time if he plays today.
Totally agree.
This is crazy, Bob. I just pulled up Jordan's stats. Throughout his career, he only averaged 1.7 three-point attempts a game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a completely different. If he's in today's NBA, he's probably close to 10 threes a game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's probably up there. I would agree with you. What was I watching? It was a replay of Lakers NBA final. Maybe it was Sixers-Lakers in '83, and it was Game 4 before the Lakers took their first three-point attempt.
Wow.
Like something crazy like that. The game has changed so much. All right, here's an interesting one because I want you to tell me if he would dominate more now than he did because maybe the game says that he would. Shaquille O'Neal. Now, you saw Shaquille O'Neal play, right, Ray? Oh, man.
The end of him, yeah. I mean, that's that. You want to keep going with my age or try to start picking people in the 2010s?
I'm sorry, but that's not like that much of a different era.
Yeah.
We talked a little off air with Tyrone about Shaquille. And is
that right?
Yeah, he thinks Shaquille would struggle at times in today's NBA and would probably have to be taken off the court late in games because he
has to move more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Offensively, I think he'd be just fine because you don't have those big centers to match up against him like you sort of did in his day. I don't think Shaq's shooting threes.
No. No. And I think the one thing when Tyrone had said that when we were having that conversation in here, watching him play against this year's Pacers team would have been fun. Him having to get up and down the floor with a team that moves at that pace. Like, all right, good luck, Shaq.
So, I just got a text from a friend of mine who said, athletes evolve like televisions. You can't compare errors. Larry Bird wouldn't be able to stop anyone in the NBA in the last 10 years.
I disagree. Sorry. I really do. He would have found a way. Like, there was guys back then. Larry Bird shouldn't have been as good as he was in the year he was in. And that was with Jordan and Magic and Showtime. Think about that. Every time Larry Bird went to an NBA final and either won or lost, he was going up against a team called Showtime.
Yeah.
That was running up and down the floor all the time.
But the point is there, though, that it is tough to compare errors because when we're talking about, Babe Ruth and the opposition he faced, well, at the same time, you can make the argument, well, Babe Ruth isn't training the way the modern-day hitter trains. They don't have the hitting coaches that they have. So it is difficult. There is one, though, that I would want to throw out there that has me thinking outside the box. Barry Bonds, because they would be testing him, and you would see how good he was even without the HGH.
Yeah, exactly.
Put him in today's in Major League Baseball, not on the juice, probably doesn't hit anywhere near the home runs he hit, but you'd still see how dominant of a baseball player he was.
That's a great point, Bill. He was so good. Last one I'll bring up before I get to Biscuit, because he has something to say about Larry Bird. In the opposite way, do you remember the Sixers? And we're picking somebody from your era. Do you remember the Sixers had a third-round pick just not all that long ago? And it was a guy from Duke. And he was, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the college basketball player of the year. They won a title the last year he was at Duke. And his name was Jahlil Okafor. Would his game have been dominant in the 70s and 80s?
Born too late.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he had some unbelievable finesse down low moves for a guy his size that, it's a shame he was born 20 years too late, because I do think he would have been a really, really good 14-year NBA veteran.
Cautionary tale for every big man from previous eras that you would plop into this one, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was a good one. Biscuit in Philly, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Biscuit?
What's going on, my brother from another mother? Listen, I'm going to make it real quick. Larry Bird would smoke him. Larry Bird broke my heart plenty of times.
Unbelievable, right? Tell the people, Biscuit, that didn't see him play. What was he like?
Larry Bird was sweet. I mean, he could do everything. It looked like it was so slow that you can't even block it. But I give you another twist. Charles Barkley would smoke him.
But yeah, Barkley's game, I think, would go in any era because he was different in that he played a big man's game at 6'4".
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Biscuit, I love it. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Interesting topic. I just like to go off topic on some different, things. We're getting a lot of people on the on our YouTube page saying Bird would average a triple-double. Bird's average, because he only averaged 1.9 threes a game, would probably go up quite a bit. Shaq would dominate. Like it's cool. I love talking about different eras.
Yeah, there's one on YouTube that I want to get your response to after the break, Bob, because they said Bobby Clark. Now, you probably remember Clarky, right?
I sure do, yeah.
So when we get back, I'd like to hear, do you think his game would translate to the
That's an
modern
interesting one, because I have a take on the whole sport of hockey translating into this type of era. All right, we'll be back right before to take you into the best show ever, as Tyrone, Ricky, and Silvana will be here to entertain you from 2 to 6 today. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, everybody, as we close it out here on the Midday Show. I want to remind you that the 1 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors. For equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job, visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. We want to congratulate Todd Spiegel, as he was the winner of 2 FanFest tickets earlier this show. FanFest, of course, is 97.5, the FanFest 2024 with FanDuel. It's coming up on Saturday, September 28th at Xfinity Live. All the Fanatic hosts, all of us, celebrity guests, Philly sports legends. There's going to be a whole lot of activities, games, prizes, so much more going on. It's the biggest party of the year for Philadelphia sports fans. So you need to listen all week and weekend to win some tickets. Go to 975thefanatic.com for all the details, including info for our online ticket raids, which will be starting up soon. It is such a great day. Bill, during the break, I was showing you some pictures and video that I had of FanFest of years past. It's one of my favorite days of the year. Oh, you know what? I'm in a good mood. I'm going to give away 2 more tickets to FanFest right now. All you have to do is call the contest line, 215-263-0975. Bill, what number did you wear in high school?
5.
Number 5, the 5th caller. Wow, lucky you didn't wear 97. The 5th caller at 215-263-0975 will win a pair of tickets to FanFest. What, Ray?
I was rooting for it to be like 88.
Well,
I was thinking
you would have said
like
college. That. College was 85, so we would have been in trouble.
I figured he was going to be in the 80s at some point.
I went to high school thinking it might be a different. So if you got 215-263-0975, you can win a pair of tickets to FanFest. Now, you say you got a text or somebody that
on YouTube, somebody said Bobby Clark.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In this era of the NHL, so you have a whole take on the NHL.
Yeah, so the NHL might be the game, in my opinion, that has changed the most from those eras past. Because it was funny, as I said, I was watching some highlights of the Flyers winning their first cup back in '74. I swear to God, it looked like they were skating a marshmallow. I mean, it was just so much slower than the game is today. Bobby Clark, let's go to individuals, was one of the most competitive SOBs that I have ever seen in my life. Yes, Bobby Clark would be able, I don't care if he was slower. I don't care if he wasn't as strong. He would have made himself faster. He would have made himself stronger, which a lot of these athletes from back in the day would have. But, yeah, I think Bobby Clark just had this it factor of, I don't care if you're bigger, I'm beating you. I don't care if you're faster, I'm beating you. Stronger, I'm beating you. Yeah, that kind of guy I think would have related.
It didn't hurt, though, that Bobby Clark had the Broad Street bullies protecting him out there either.
No, but it was funny. He did. And it was one of the first guys to be protected. Like, you saw it carry down from that because that era, that Broad Street bullies, that was the likes you never, ever saw before.
And then Gretzky had McSorley, right?
Yeah, they always said somebody always had Gretzky's back, and that went on down the line. But those guys could play too. You don't win Stanley Cups by having a couple of superstars and a bunch of goons.
Now, Gretzky's name came up earlier. You said you'd like to see him in the modern NHL. I'd love to see it too, because when he was doing what he was doing, which no one really has even ever come close. Mario Lemieux's the closest in a season of points, but never broke 200. I think he had 198 or something like that. But Gretzky, what he's done in NHL history, we'll never see again.
No.
But that was also during an era when there was a lot more goals back then.
There was.
It was a lot more open of a style of NHL. So I'd love to see what he could do in today's NHL. I just don't think he'd be putting up 200 points.
Probably not. But I'll tell you what, I would put down good money that he'd be a leading scorer in the NHL even today. He just had everything. He was faster than everybody. He saw the ice better than anybody. He had a shot that was just unbelievable. Like Gretzky, the fact that, if you didn't see him play, I was lucky enough to have seen him play, or unlucky enough because he beat the Flyers in the Stanley Cup final. But that was just different. That was so much different. And I'll just take him in any era.
Yeah, he
used to play.
For the most points in a single season. 215.
215.
But he also he's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 He had 215, 212, 208, 205. And then coming in at number 5, Mario Lemieux had 199. And then after that, Gretzky, Lemieux, Gretzky, Lemieux. Lemieux and Gretzky hold the top 13 spots.
How about that?
The closest to them in modern NHL is Connor McDavid, 153 in 2022-2023.
Yeah, and I love watching that Edmonton team play with him and Draisaitl. I think Edmonton, and for the sake of Brendan Gunn, who has a lot of money on the line for this.
Well, not a lot of money on the line himself. What, he bet $1?
He bet $1 to win like $46,000 should Edmonton win the Stanley Cup, because he's already won with other teams winning championships. Edmonton needs to win the Stanley Cup. The Celtics need to win the NBA championship, Phillies World Series, and Georgia needs to win the.
I thought the others were already done.
Was Georgia already done, or is that one he has coming up?
He needs Georgia and the Phillies beyond the Celtics and the Oilers. I think he gets.
And he
to
did the
cash
Chiefs.
out.
He did the Chiefs already.
Chiefs and UConn have already been settled.
Got it.
And Celtics seems like it's already settled, even though it's not already finished. Yeah, I think he probably gets into cash out range if this begins. Like if he gets past these 2 titles, I'd be interested to see if he gets the cash out range for Phillies or Georgia.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. But he's letting it ride for now. We will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for the best show ever coming up. Tyrone, Ricky, and Silvana are coming in pretty soon. We will be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock. When are you on again?
So
Bill?
you got Amy tomorrow.
Got Amy tomorrow?
But then I'm doing tomorrow night, 6 to 10. Andrew DeCecco and I are doing Birds Insider for 2 hours, and then I'm taking over Philly Sports tonight.
All right, make sure you check all that out here at 97.5 The Fanatic.